And we are live. Good morning. This is 11/20/2023. It's about 8:30 a.m. And I'm just going to have an open conversation about core values. I did a mind mapping exercise for myself as I was looking at it was just like a Shutterstock, and it has 70 values listed on it. And so I was like, 70, that is a lot. And so let me start with a little backstory. Having a conversation with wifey, and she's like, I had an epiphany. We have a few relationships that are close to us, family members. Um, and the holidays turn around. Nephew, what up, Xander? The holidays turn around, and they're not always, you know, the best emotionally or stable, emotionally balanced. Sometimes they come with, the family members where you have, old grievances and things from the past that can cause the holiday to fall out a little bit. But there's other ways that we can approach it, right? And so my wife was telling me about, us all coming together and what that's going to look like this year, and who she plans to have come through, or if we were going somewhere, what would that look like? And she's sensitive to, where I'm at right now. Um, Psycho emotionally, and all of those different areas that I've been working on. And so she's like, are you good this year to be around with all the family? Because again, I got a very large family, and we've come to grips with, not trying to discipline everybody out of their lifestyle choices. The state or the world will do enough trying to discipline and correct us for the holidays. It's about us finding ways to love each other through all of that and be around the kids and keep the positive, good energy. And so there's a lot of conversations that, now that I've been through at least one round with the people who could talk to us about what our issues are. Um, I've been through I've been through quite a few sessions, um, and because of that, there were little challenges that they were telling me I should do. The head shrinker lady. And so the head shrinker lady was like, well, what are your core values? What are your strengths? And strengths based way of thinking about my life, it helped in corporate America. And I didn't think that it would be applicable towards how do you manage your household. Hey, and Angelica Diallo, how do you manage your household? How do you manage your relationship as husband? How do you manage your relationship as father? So identifying the strengths from a corporate perspective, what value do you add to the workforce, is it can be the same or it can be different, but it was just not the way that I had thought about it. And so applying that same type of logic, what are or mental, emotional analysis, excuse me, what are your values regarding your relationship? What are your values regarding how you parent? And what are your values regarding how you be little brother, how you be a big cousin, how you be nephew? And so with all of that, there was a lot that I was learning about myself, because I was challenged. And the values at first was hard to me because I'm black. I didn't want to go to no fucking doctor in the fucking first place and tell them what my issues were. And then I went through that phase where I was only on the surface level, even talking about it, because I didn't want to make my issues seem to, like, I'm a veteran. So I know that there are veterans who experience a lot. And so what I've been through, I didn't want actual counseling for. And so there was the getting over that part. And then once I started getting into the work of identifying core values, that was where it was hard for me, because it was almost asking myself to speak positive of myself at a time when I was feeling very low. So yes, veterans, every once in a while, we do need to go on to that VA. I know for many veterans in their experience, they had tried to go to the VA and have these conversations, and maybe at the time they weren't staffed appropriately, or they didn't have the significant resources that they have today. So I will lead with that backstory. It took a little bit for my wife to even be accepting that, okay, Moses is saying he wants to go get help. How does she swallow that as a wife who's been with an overachiever, somebody who had been swallowing that and just trying to go head first into corporate America. And otherwise, if you just base it on income, it looks like he's doing pretty good. But there were the things that she wanted me to change in my relationship and the way that I treated her, and I was not owning up to that. I know they if you go to academia, they'll call it like the division of labor, but there's also just like the emotional integrity of the relationship. When she's good, if I'm not good, does that mean we're both not good? Is there something that she can do to help, or am I still going to be turning that support down from the people who are closest to me out of my own way of, self-protection, self-preservation? So all right. It took a lot to get a young brother to go through. I mean, to go through it was, life. But to actually say, yeah, some of the things that I was going through were wrong, and I was actually a part of the wrong side, thinking that that was right. So how do I declutter my thoughts around those things that were wrong? And we I can give you a couple of those examples. It's like how do I respond to authority? The no snitching type thing. There were certain premises or principles that I would consider they're not even really principles, like universal maxims. Like we don't talk to the police was something that I was assuming was a universal maxim among Black people. And that was broken down for me in the terms of how would one define that as a core value? You know what I'm saying? Living with the insecurity of distrust is toxic. Living with the insecurity that the people who are supposed to keep you safe are the ones who are targeting you and threatening you. If that was what was going through the back of your mind when you were a kid, adolescent, now you're 20, you're 21, and that's all you could think is that you were at a constant state of you were being targeted, then yeah, it could have some emotional, psychological ramifications. And so the next phase will be going through. The VA is opening up. They have them. I didn't know that they have these type of classes that they meet and shit. But again, if you going to the VA, in my experience, they were the ones who were saying no. So I was like, man, I ain't going to you motherfuckers. And then finally, once the resources start coming in, they were now able to tell more people yes. And they were only able to tell more people yes once they got the resources and then they got the staffing. And now that they have the staffing, they feel a little bit more confident because they've also done some training of some certain areas, and that training allows them to even have the conversations without then blaming the veteran and then saying, well, the veteran came in, he's mad, he seems manic, he seems, all of these things, to which they want to hold the veteran and say, yeah, the veteran's unstable. Yeah, fix the conditions. Like if you're on a waiting list for months to talk to your primary, and then you're going through the life issues, but you're also struggling with PTSD and the triggers that you're getting from the social cues, such as January 6th and all other forms of social cues, Ukraine, the Middle East, all the different triggers that one may experience. To go to the VA and say, yeah, can I talk to somebody about this? Is there a group where people are already sitting down having these conversations? What are the other benefits of service that are available? My family did that. And so my wife, excuse me, she sat down and she had her epiphany after I was going through mine, and she was breaking it down on, well, maybe there is a divergence in the way our core values are expressing themselves. And so I'm gonna go through what I did. This is only 30 slides. It could have been a lot more because again, there were 70 different values that they had listed. And this was just my mind mapping, and I wanted to kind of chronicle it. So as I'm going forward, I can see how these values that I've assigned out of this whole list of 70, how they might change over time. So now that I got that out the way, the backstory and such, I would say that I am a bit more of an advocate for mental health care through the VA for those veterans who experience PTSD. I know they've tried to streamline the crisis line. Now it's 988 press 1 for those who get to their rock bottom. I've even heard some success stories of where they've been able to provide housing assistance. They have different partners and referral programs to help with housing. And then they even had some that were going into the care, like the care providers. See, a lot of times, if the veteran is not 100% disabled, then the VA is not really recognizing the spouse as like a care provider or something like that. It's not technically written down as their their care provider, their primary provider, or the person who takes care of them the most. And there are certain benefits, if they were recognized at 100%, that even their spouse would be eligible for, and as well as their dependents. And that's the game that a lot of folks, they hear about, where veterans are going through the motions in life after experiencing, the whatever they did in the army, to whatever extent they're impacted by it. But when they do decide to go to the VA and apply for benefits or whatever it might be, they end up getting the bureaucratic runaround for a while, and it's very disheartening. So with me, I've experienced a lot of both, and it did take for me and my wife to sit down and come to grips and say, yeah, if you feel like you need to go talk to somebody, I'll drive you there. Um, and then you go have your conversation and make sure you come yourself home. And so, yeah. But now, core, the part of something that is central to its existence or its character, and the values, the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, the worth, or usefulness of something. So let's talk about core values. It's the crux of the foundation of which we've established our relationship. We can have the conversation freely about things that make her insecure. When I am on social media and I choose to re-engage and interact with those from high school, 50% of that demographic, gender-wise, would be those who are women now. And now that we are over the age of 40, it means something different. You've been in a relationship coming upon, 18 years, 19 years, it feels. It may be 19 years, yeah, because of my son getting ready to go to college now. It's been about 19 years. And so with that could come different distractions. And so my wife had an epiphany that it was time for me to realign with the core values of a husband, right? So I think in the old school, they would have said, your slip is showing. I began acting a bit out of character, and in her regard, she is the woman who can help me recenter myself if I'm too far left or too far right of the center values. I didn't understand what her center values were or her corner values. And so we have our conversations. I created a visual aid because, sometimes wives say things and it can go right over my head if I'm not in the mood to receive it. I didn't want to hear all that shit. And then because I'm an over-analyzing person, I know I don't wear no slip, but that's what the old folks used to say. Something was funny with the church's money. She has to be able to trust me and confide in me and to love me, but yet I start embodying behaviors that she disagrees with. And so in the kindest and most loving way that a wife can, she says she has an epiphany. That's mirror talk when she's like, nigga, wake up. She said, boy, we need to talk about some things. And when she says we need to talk about some things, she was more or less referring to something that I did, and she's using her way of saying it as the woman with a doctorate degree in education. She done learned a little bit about how to communicate to somebody when they're acting out of line. I guess she was using all of that education and training and her life skills back on the husband. But we woke up and we had the conversation on my birthday, nonetheless. And she wanted to remind me about core values. And so we're looking at the values, and on this big list of 70, I did not consider for myself that career was such an important value. I'm like, career, that just seems like what we do. So I wrote a couple of notes on career because it was a spark of a conversation on finance and so much more, but I didn't understand it when she was saying it. So career, how is your career a core value? How you earn a living is definitive of the human experience. If you value you, you might pursue what you value. If you don't value you, you might also struggle with valuing what you do. In other ways of operating, you can still exist. There are other ways of operating that exist. So I wrote the little notes, and they're in the bottom. You can kind of see them, but they're in font 2. I'm using 41-year-old eyes to read something in font 2. So forgive me. And I wrote the shit as the notes. Other ways of operating exist outside of work. So I guess I was challenging like career. Why is career like a core value? It can be something that you value, but is it really at the core of a person? And so she's allowing me to understand from her perspective independence, and how independence and things that would stand contrary to her independence. As we know, my wife is pregnant again, and my wife earned her doctorate at a time I was lightweight, having a resentment for my wife. Not that it was a competition with her, but that I wanted more kids. But that meant she would be making the sacrifice of body and mind and spirit and essence and everything she wanted to accomplish. And so she's telling me, years later that yes, she's made sacrifices. And I'm like, sacrifices how? And I'm like, man, you had a house in Sacramento. Yeah, you did have a home and you did sell your asset to take care of family and you chopped it up and that was all economics. Don't talk to me about economics because whoop-de-whoop, I'm gonna be flat out. You got your doctorate degree and that's a whole lot of student loan debt too. So there's a trade-off there. So I'm thinking I'm Billy Badass and she's telling me something that was deeper than that. Like the way that I identify in not just I have a job, but what you do, like you start earning titles at work and it starts to become you. How much do you invest in what you do? And so they argue against the independent woman because, like, I think her name is Sugar Bomb said last night, the other option from those men who say, oh, I want my wife to have more kids is that she sacrifice career, stay home and be barefoot and pregnant. And that's what my wife was saying to me in the nicest way possible, that it took a lot more for me to understand. So again, it didn't sound like I'm yelling, but I'm yelling at the woman about you didn't make no sacrifices, and I'm not understanding how I'm cutting at the core of my own woman. And so the epiphany, she wakes up and says, well, maybe we need to talk about values. Career, the definition is an occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's life and with opportunities for progress. I thought it was an adjacency. I'm thinking if we talking values, tell me what really makes you you. And so I did not understand that she was answering the question the whole time. I said, does doing for others give you a higher sense of self-value, or does your self-value manifest itself in what others are now doing for you? Because from my masculine perspective, if you're not becoming the VP, your career has like some type of trajectory. I was, military was you go from E1 private to P2, and then you get your E3, and then you become a specialist once you've specialized in it, and then you can become some type of sergeant. You get your chevrons and stuff, and or if you become an officer, that's how we looked at your career. Once you move up, people start working for you, and I manage a team of 80. Sounds like you're moving up in a career. And so by me making it about that, I was still just dismissing the answer, that she was giving me when I was supposed to have been listening, but trying to tell her that career does not fit for me as a value. While this whole time she was essentially saying, well, while you were pursuing your career, you were traveling 75% of the time. Do you think that meant that you valued family less because you spent 75% of the time away from family? Or do you still hold that you valued family even though family dropped down to 25% of the time or less? Because you were designated working 75% of the time away from family. So if your true value is family, why the hell you gone 75% of the time? What's your value if not career? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing what I got to do. So do you value career? Yeah, but it's not really a value. What do you mean? How is it the double-edged sword then? So yeah, I had to really break it down for myself and start here with career. I said, consider this and a series of other values for yourself and their definitions to explore how closely you either align or disagree with those values, the definitions, or so forth. Even the images that they used, I like how it was the career, they made what looks like a career man going towards the end flag or the finish line, and the steps up like a career, like you're moving up. And so I was so quick to diminish. My wife works in the education ecosystem. So what was I really saying? She should be the director or on the board of education. And she already has those accolades. She already has people who vouch for her at that same level. And when you look at her salary compared to other folks who are making a similar life or career choice, she's not doing bad. It's like, wow, they really fuck with her. And so there was no reason for me to ever be assuming that when she said career, she wasn't answering the question of value. And once I see this big chart has so many different values, it was like, Moses, why were you limiting what you thought a value was? So that's the long story short. I know a lot of people have to get back to their life and their business. So I'll give y'all that. And now we'll move into more or less the values without so much explanation going through them. Here's a bigger list, as you see, and let me make it full screen. I'll take me down. Hopefully I don't cover too much. There we go. We can see that there are a lot here. Some of them are repetitious, like this one with the heart and the lines around the core values: open-minded, charity, empathy, passion, social responsibility, vision, honesty, leadership, reputation, fraternity, optimism, personal growth, environmentalism, behavior, discipline, innovation, values, generosity, competence, career, productivity, energy, influence, strategy. Energy, I wouldn't have thought. Like, there are people who, I value energy in this world. I wouldn't have even used that as a response. And there are others like honesty, where I would have used a different word like integrity, but necessarily maybe we're saying the same thing, maybe not. And so again, as we look at values, why would I be limiting of the person who says I value honesty because of the way I think about integrity? It wasn't necessary for me to diminish honesty, or I value the honesty in you. I was like, oh, but that seemed too mushy and things. So let me keep going. All right. So strategy, organization, accountability, community, creativity, curiosity. I wouldn't have thought about that one. Collaboration, efficiency, key ability, reliability. This is one that I thought my wife was just using as a compliment. For some people, she was like, they deem that I'm super reliable, or what I like most about these folks is that they're reliable. Other words like dependable, or she'll say it in her way, I can call on these people at any time and they're likely to answer the phone. If you're in a position of love and you've had that impact on people, where there are people who just pick up the phone and they call you at any time because you're someone that they trust, I believe that that is a position of strength and love. And she is one of those people. But she also gives that compliment. And I didn't know, I wouldn't have not necessarily used it as a value trait, reliability, but I'll keep going. Courage, relationship, consistency, that one's going to come up big. Commitment, gender equality, principle of right, ethics, values. Like, someone values values. That's interesting. Love, dreams, compassion, integrity, loyalty, heart, focus, excellence, growth, teamwork, decision making, family care, interaction, willpower, problem solving, motivation, innovation, communication. I'm down at the bottom of this now. We almost through these. Knowledge, control, quality, intelligence, achievement, guidance, transparency. I know the font is very little, which is why I'm trying to read them off. And they do have the icons though. Mission, and then project. So there was a lot of different values that I would have considered and that they've named and they've given icons for, and a lot that I did not consider. There are others. It's a lot easier of a conversation than going into the trauma bag. If we can talk about the positive things in each other and what we like about each other, I value, or what they value, if we can actually connect with those that we love. They've stood by certain values, certain principles. They've been transparent. They've always been somebody who's been able to provide guidance. They've been a problem solver. Um, I Big brother has been a motivation for me, like finding ways to be a better and good communicator. As the little brother, let me go to the next one. And yes, I'm back in my bag again. This is B1 Brother Moses. I'm from the tribe of Long Winds. Thanks for rocking with me. As the little brother, I was using the holidays as a time to cry about what the big brothers was doing or not doing. So yeah, I tell it. I was telling mama on they punk ass. Every holiday we would come and it was their fault because they didn't call me. They didn't do nothing. It's been a year. And the reason why we ain't been able to do what we needed to do this year is because they didn't help me. Because I'm the little bro and I wasn't able to call my little. And so again, that's putting the pressure on the big bros to say, well, damn, am I even going to come around because he's acting like this again? So again, as the little bro, I got little privileges, the being coddled or the being protected. Like I can only imagine growing up in an environment where you did not feel safe at all. It was one thing for me to say, well, I don't trust the police, we won't snitch. But in the streets, I had brothers as well as I had my father in the family and my mom who was always there. Um, and because we had cousins and things that were around, I didn't have to grow up feeling absolutely unprotected. Whereas there are some family members where if they grow up in a conditions like Del Paso Heights and they didn't have family or a father, that is a scary environment to be raised in. So let's get into some of these values and their definitions. Loyalty, and I just went with like the Cambridge definition or whatever was available in PowerPoint, and I wanted to write it because again the font was too small, and I wanted to make it easier for my future self. Be kind to your future self. The font was too small on a lot of their icons and such, so I picked out the ones for myself to have this conversation. You'll see as we go forward. But loyalty is like one of the most common ones that I thought that was important. And having a conversation around the value of loyalty can really drive some good feelings, especially if you've been there for each other and you want to speak on those good ones. As the little crybaby baby brother, I've often neglected those times where the big brothers were there for me. So when I'm crying about them not being there for me, what I'm doing is dismissing the times where they really were, which is a lot. So loyalty, number one, the quality of being loyal, and two, your feelings of support or duty towards someone or something. Being a better little brother, yeah, that's for me. Loyalty to them means don't get in front of mom and dad and aunties acting out saying we doing this, that, and the third. You could have called me if you ever needed me. All you had to do was call. Don't get to acting like it's something different in front of everybody just because. Why? Because it makes it feel like I'm not only acting out or doing all of that shit, it's not funny anymore. We grown. Like they ain't gonna get no whooping and shit. We got better jokes that we could talk about. But yeah, every once in a while, especially if the spirits are high, little brother might cry. So that's the way that shit was. If the spirits are high, little brother might cry. I'll just say it that way. And so they feel like I'm not being loyal to them in the family because now I'm throwing big brother under the bus. But yeah, so anyway, let's get to the next one. We said we're going to keep it moving. Influence, the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. So, who is influential? You've been very influential is a good way to say it. Or who are some of the other people who are influential in your life is a good way to ask that question. Good table talk, doesn't matter what they're going through. I know that they've been influential in some way to you if you want to put it in the forms of a conversation. And so my wife's influence had been mostly positive. She was not um like even when I felt like my wife, I'm the man, and now you're going against something that I feel is important. She was not using malice or cruel intent. She wasn't being selfish. Um, I mean, there's the selfishness to the extent of I don't another woman to have. She didn't want me going out there making myself available to another woman. So there is that degree of selfishness when she was telling me to take caution and to be of a better regard in how I was going into the world. The other part was she was saying if you're going to be wielding your influence in the world and you know that other people may be watching and observing, then how you use your influence is not just what you're doing, but also what is the message that you intend to send with it. The behaviors that people may critique, are you sending the message that is consistent with your values? So if you value being in a position of influence, then what is the message, or what is the actual the influence, like the effect of the influence, that people would become more knowledgeable in finance, that people would, be better enabled to have intellectual conversations when addressing degenerates, like when we first addressed the manosphere and we ran over their tenants, we were like, it's sexual degeneracy. Well, we have a whole generation now that knows how to say sexual degenerates. And if they choose to avoid them, that's on them. If they choose to, they know that they exist, but they kind of disassociate, that's on them. If they choose to be like the the radical right evangelicals, and the officer Brandon Tatum, them, and they're standing up against it, and they're having the rallies and the Turning Point USA, we have to change America. If the next generation chooses to become more radicalized and say we're standing up against all of this super tolerance, and things like that, like the three strike rule, they want to become more political than we even were. They have that information, but the influence is, what is the message that you would even want, with the behaviors that you think that they would see. So again, that one was big. I like to put it in the form of the compliments to my big bros, compliments to them for having a positive influence. I made it over the hill. In our book, 40 was that line. Like we get returning value from now, from 40 to 80, if we make it, if God says the same. But inshallah, we have a lot more value that we can add today and in the future. Control was the issue, and you knew it was coming. Well, I don't know if y'all knew it was coming, but it was coming. A woman that wants to get her doctorate degree is already telling you that she has control issues. And so in my relationship, there are a lot of this. She bought her house before I was ever thinking about buying a house. She was like, nah, I'm not finna live with my grandma. When she turned like 21, she was like, I want a house by the time I turn 21. And I'm like, all right, you want a house by the time you turn 21? That sounds great. We're still young, but let's make that happen. I don't really want no house. How do you plan on doing it? And she's like, don't worry about that. You don't have to worry about that. And when I say young, I'm talking, I was working in like a movie theater, like walking to work. Like we had a old Chrysler LeBaron or some Chrysler Sebring. It wasn't even a LeBaron. We wasn't even in a true scraper yet. I tell you how poor we were. Like in our struggle relationship when we first started, we wasn't even in like a scraper yet in Northern California. It wasn't even a scraper. Like we didn't even get the scraper with the music and the sound system, tinted windows in it. Yeah, I didn't put no rims on that bad boy. Yeah, I didn't even. We were in our struggle relationship at the time where I was walking to, it was it an AMC? It may have been an AMC or a Regal movie theater. AMC Regal. Yeah, on everything. So we, like, for real, she had the vehicle because the light rail was there. The light rail was more affordable as a student, but you did not have the ability to really work and go to school using that light rail unless you were a super overachiever, meaning you were very well organized. Like you had all of your hours mapped out. And we were young and we were still like, okay, she wants to get a house, and she was really determined about that shit. I mean, and they were building like new apartments that were like luxury type apartments that most people in our neighborhood wanted to get inside them luxury apartments. We didn't want to go, when we were getting out of our parents' homes, we didn't want to have to live in the bad apartments. Like we knew the bad apartments, the smoke trees and shit. If you were in smoke trees, nigga, you were probably going to experience a little different way. But if you could get to like Natomas area, if you could get to where like different, they had different ones, like even the smoke trees in Natomas, it was like shady type of apartments you just didn't want to move into. And so she had a different vision. She was like, I want a house. And it wasn't necessarily where the house was, but it was her motivation to get there and to be in control. So there were other relationships where the men were with a woman who they did not want to work. And 20 years later, their credit scores are like 500, 580. And it's like that level of control that she is a grown woman and she has like a 540 credit score now, there's a difference. So they can look at it and say, well, no, you let your wife do this, that, and the third. Your wife did, she ran over you. Why? Because she could go into her own contracts for education because she wanted a home. When she wanted a home, I had to sign a document to release control over that asset that she might have the home. Well, I didn't have to. We could have kept it together. But no, she has the right to her asset that she could choose to do with what she wanted to. And again, because we're in our struggle relationship, we are family, but we don't really know what that means yet. So we are family that would still be willing to live in the hood, like right on the hot block, like not like saying like the whole neighborhood itself. Like if you put neighborhood, okay, that's all inclusive. No, we wanted to live on the street, not wanted to, but we would live on the street where it was the hottest at. And like that wasn't a problem. It's a problem. It's a problem for the man who's not going to be lured into a trap lord type life and really ain't really about that life, to live on the same street where that life is and to raise his family amongst that, because you're going to have to stand up to social degeneracy. You're going to have to stand up. The disrespect will come. It's fuck your yard, it's fuck your driveway. They don't give a shit about that shit. And so living in that and Del Paso Heights was, it had a lot of pocket areas where it can get bad, like very bad, and niggas knew it. But the neighborhood itself, you got to look at it for what it is. When it's on the news, they're talking about the entire neighborhood. For us to live on the street where it was bad or worse, that is on man. And so I'm the young man in the relationship. I'm daddy, but I'm not willing to make that mental shift out of the neighborhood. I'll live somewhere, I'll get a house, but it got to be in the hood on one of the worst streets. That was a sign of ignorance. But if I lead in that relationship, I'm leading a woman who has the potential to become a doctor and then does go on to become a doctor into a life of perpetual poverty. Because I think it was I'm 21. No, wait, where am I? I could go back and give my actual age at that time, but no. But yeah, my lady is 19. We work at the same place. It's a good job that we're doing for the community. We believe we're doing the right thing. But for me, it's not making enough money. And the woman that I'm with wants a home. So it's beholden upon the dude to get it. And I'm like, man, I work at a movie theater now because, okay, we worked at the same place. I got fired. And then she continued to work there. And it was doing, I didn't even really get fired. I don't know if I got fired. I think I got fired. I'd have to ask them. I could actually call and ask him. But yeah, it's been a couple of jobs where it was like, we're going to have to let you go. And it was like, was it a firing or was it a budget cut? It's still some gray area there. Did I do something wrong? Or did I just say something that rubbed the person the wrong way? Because you can't necessarily fire them. They're protected, but I'm going to have to let you go according to what I believe you did. And so did I do anything that was like a terminable behavior on the job, or was I released from the job? I can get to those details more accurately later. I'll just say, for the sake of argument, I was fired. That shit just makes the shit easier to palate. And so now I'm working at a fucking movie theater. Who is going to stay in that relationship in the first place? I'll wait. I mean, yeah, she's 19 and I'm trying to do the right thing. But now you didn't saw the income or career, which you're telling me is not a value, but you're going to do more for you to have a career. And you want me to be barefoot and pregnant having kids, which is her. She's like, nah, man. So she took control. She wanted her home. And before we left Sacramento, we were already in a home. If I stand in the way of that, I'm an idiot. But yet there are men who do not want women to have any degree of control, specifically when it comes to finances. Willpower Control exerted to do something or restrain impulses is what she was asking me to have socially. Where some feel like the locus of control, what I can control, I do what I can, I do what I must, I do what I have to do, I just get it done. She's saying yes, and have some willpower and discipline in your social relationships. You can't just snap off on everybody when you want to just because you disagree with their leadership style, their perspective, their point of view, their lifestyle, their life behavior choices. Just because they trigger you does not give you, I mean, you can. You got the right to do what you want to do, is how I'm phrasing this. But she was asking me from the level of control to have willpower. There was another one, though, as a value. Decision making is what I think many people are avoiding giving up. They value their ability to make decisions. So we broke this one down: the action or process of making decisions, especially important ones, a conclusion or resolution reached after consideration. I think this is what they mean with freedom. And in a relationship, some start to understand the 51-49 principle, while others think it's more like the man makes all of the financial decisions and the woman has no ability to make any. I've learned from relationships where the man surrenders 100% of his income earned to the woman. That way, there's no arguments. She can buy whatever it is that she wants to buy, and she doesn't have to feel bad about him not having any money. She knows exactly how much he has and how much he's made. He gave her all of it. My wife never wanted to be somebody that allowed me to pay her way. That barefoot and pregnant was clashing with her independence, and it was clashing with her value of decision making. When she makes a decision, she's resolved. That's done. She didn't want someone second guessing all of her decisions. And when she wanted my opinion, she would ask. But the decision, the conclusion, she wanted the rights to. And so she retains the right to decision making. And yeah, there are many relationships where you look back and their relationship is impacted because they probably didn't find a way to understand that decision making is a high value for a woman who is independent and driven to do such. Knowledge, or the old wise owl. I like their icon that they used for knowledge. Definition: facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. Some people would say I value knowledge because I do read. That's still the verdict is out. I be yelling at the authors, and that's what makes me read. It makes me read more when I disagree, and I'm like, what are they talking about, and where are they going? And so the facts, the information, and the skills acquired by a person through experience or education. Oops, skipped one. Discipline. This is one that she would give to me. She would say, I believe that you value discipline. By definition, the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. A branch of knowledge, typically one studied in higher education. I didn't think that this one really applied to me. I think I was using the word outside of its definition, or at the very most, the using punishment to correct disobedience. She had to help me understand the way that that this applied to me. She had to help me understand how this applies to me. When I call myself correcting her, it's through my voice. That's when I'm raising my voice and yelling and talking over her and trying to make my point and not even really trying to convince her that my point is right. I'm more or less scolding her that what she did, I feel, is more or less wrong. So again, going against her value of making a decision. Once she made a decision based off of her experience, her skills, she's the one with a doctorate degree. She then did a whole lot of studies, way more than I have, and so forth in her area. Economics and how we spend money may be a way that I'm like, well, babe, did you actually need to buy that, or did you need to buy that? There's one big expenditure that's like $1,700, and I be giving her the fucking side eye over that. Now, for some families, $1,700 as an expenditure, okay, you're not going to side eye that. It's like, man, why are you tripping off that woman spending $1,700 a month? If she's happy with what she's spending it on, nigga, that's her decision. It comes with her knowledge, her skills, her values, and everything. That's her money. Let her spend it. While there are other relationships where it's like, hell no, I don't care what it is. If my wife is spending $1,700 a month on something and I consider it frivolous, I'm going to say something about that. And so it's to each their own, but she had to help me understand how it applied to me when I called myself punishing her or correcting her for not obeying or not going against my value, which is saving. I'm like, if you got $1,700 that you could have put somewhere else, we got other ways that that money could have been invested rather than just now it's just gone. And that's every fucking month. And 1,700 is like the bottom that she spends on that. She spends a little bit more than that on what she spends it on, which I won't go into the details of, but it's one of those family things. Again, her epiphany had me doing the extra work, subjective and objective values. It's one of the reasons why I struggle with values in the first place. It'd be like, man, y'all keep being subjective. That shit don't mean nothing. And so I keep dismissing it. I'd be like, nah, you're being subjective. You're being subjective. And I'm dismissing the whole part of my brain that is the creative, the dreamy side, the one that wants to imagine things and to really, like, it would be good to go to see the waterfall in Hawaii because of a waterfall. If you want to imagine a waterfall, where's no better place than Hawaii somewhere, something like that. Like that dream. And then two, the grand aspirations or an ideal state of being. Why am I dismissing that when I say, oh no, you're just being subjective. You need to be more objective. That's my masculine mind trying to take over and be more dominant than it even needs to be when she's answering the question about what she values. And then there was the guidance, advice or information aimed at resolving a problem or difficulty, especially as given by someone in authority, the directing of emotion or position of something. I was going to be petty when I first made this slide because the dreams and the guidance, and I was going to talk about Cassandra Ventura and her case against Sean Combs, and I had even put the images of them on this. And I was like, man, I know that that's the way that social media is. You have to add some controversy or some extra nothing to it if you want it to actually go. But I'm not going to do that. Subjective and objective values, they mean something. And if somebody is more subjective, that doesn't mean that they are less valuable or that what they value is less valuable. If somebody tends to side with things that are tangible, I need to know the facts, the details, give me it right now, like an executive mind. If that's what they value, that doesn't make them more valuable. That doesn't make their values more valuable. It's just their value set. And so again, she was teaching me what I needed to learn about myself. There are certain ways that I was analyzing it. Like, do I put dreams above guidance? From my male-centered perspective, I assumed that my wife wanted my guidance. That's an assumption that many failed relationships probably go through, where the man assumes that the woman values guidance, particularly their guidance, that they should and ought to value their guidance. And if you're dealing with a woman who's already independent and she's shaking shit up, your advice or information may not even be aimed at resolving any of the things that she sees as important. I.e., I was the young nigga that wanted to stay in the hood. If she wanted a home, it had to be in the hood. She's like, no, I really don't want a home in the hood, but I want my home. I'm like, well, take my name off the lease. She's like, I'm still buying a home. I'm like, okay, so she has an asset that will appreciate in value. She's still going to be right. But if she's taking my guidance or acting under my direction, she's moving our family onto the worst street in the hood. She has her own dreams and she can be self-guiding towards her own dreams and self-manifesting. I can't get to that point if I don't even understand the very premise that she values career more than she would have valued being pregnant and barefoot inside of the house. That me placing a higher value on her being pregnant and barefoot was actually what would have been diminishing of her. And that her stepping out on her own faith and saying, I'm going to have the courage to do what I want to do in my world with my time and manifest the dreams of home ownership and family. That was her courage. That in some relationships, the men aren't going. They aren't going for a bold woman who's willing to step out on their own independence, get a house, take a student loan out in order to become a doctor in their specialty field. They're not going. Let's get to the next one. Passion is one that I always get. Passion. I can tell that there's a passion inside of you. The definition, strong and barely controllable emotion. And I know I wrote a lot of notes on this one, so I'm going to look. I didn't write the notes. I think on this one, I just wrote like some of the synonyms and such. Enthusiasm, excitement, intensity, spiritedness, fervency, fanaticism, commitment, fierceness. I don't know why my snaggletooth ass always grab these F words. I be struggling in a motherfucker, and y'all don't clip that, but that's me. Defensiveness, sensitivity to, responsiveness to, regard for, energy behind. A measure of psycho-emotional investment into a particular thing or subject matter based on their response. The amount of energy put into an argument, particularly in its defense, from a differing negative critique. That's passion. I typically get this one, and so I added it to my mind map, and I knew I had some notes about it, so that's why I scrolled up. Consistency. Conformity in the application of something, typically that which is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness. My wife was always saying fairness. Oh, you believe in fairness, fairness. I'm like, fairness? Why does she keep saying fair? Life ain't fucking fair. Why does she keep saying that? And she's like, Moses, you're asking me for too much. You keep saying consistency, consistency. What you, so here it again. I'm trying to provide this information. If we wait for the black man to go get therapy, we're waiting. That's an unrealistic expectation. If we wait for the white man to make what matters go viral, that's an unrealistic expectation. If we wait for the people who are popular to talk about the benefits of therapy or what are they talking about with values and how do you find your what are you strong at, your strengths based, and where are your core value sets, where are you aligning, if we wait for them to do it, that's still unrealistic. So I'm going to do it. It will be done. I can revisit it later and see how my values realign. Thanks for everybody that's rocking with me. Sunray Physique, I appreciate it. Said I really appreciate, or I really like this presentation. Yeah, I tried to put it together because the conversation for me, I'll go on a tangent about each and every one of these by themselves. But consistency is like a catchphrase in my household. She's like, you're asking me for consistency. You want your meals cooked. You want your clothes clean. These are the things where you're saying division of labor, like you learned about the division of labor, but you're asking me to do things that are consistent for you. Every day you wake up, you don't have to worry about these things. Logically, you want it, like you can measure it every day. And I was just getting lost on the word fairness when she was saying fair. You want it to be fair. Well, what is fair in our relationship? What does fair look like? But consistency. Do you value consistency? And why is a deeper? I think that one, once you get beyond just the word consistency, and you start to see, well, do I agree with the definition? There are certain things that how it applies in certain people's life. What was my wife consistent at? And so she's talking to me about the division of labor in the household, and it's beyond the household. Like take taking the children to school and picking them up from school in the morning. Like, yeah, things like that. Like I wake up in the morning and it was a certain privilege, like, okay, they're gonna get to school, they're gonna be all right. Until my wife's job was on the other side of town. And it was like, now I got this little, I'm gonna say it. I be talking shit about myself too. I know I should give it up, but my little bitch ass nigga moment, I be having my light skinned nigga moments where I be like, man, I don't even, because my daughter has this thing, and I'm gonna just be, I'm gonna keep it a buck. She knows how to bat her eyelashes and get fast food every day, every time my daughter want to eat. And so all she know is if I send my dad this text message to come pick me up from school, my dad will show up now. And then if I say I'm hungry, that means that's something to eat. And it gets me almost every time. And so she even knows how to trick Quincy, who's about to graduate. This is a senior in high school now and graduating in December, graduating early. Why am I buying that boy fast food? It's a senior in high school. He's like, well, I didn't eat lunch. Whose fault is that? You are a senior in high school and I'm buying you fast food like 2 times a week. And so it's like, yeah, but I didn't understand that when wifey was doing that, that gave me a certain level of privilege. I'm like, baby, where your money going? She like, you don't understand what happens when it comes to your children. And I'm like, yeah, these children, they don't cost that much because, I buy the groceries, put the groceries in the fridge and all of that. But no, the way the kids get you is when you're outside the home too. And so my daughter has a way of doing that. I didn't think that it was fair, but I didn't understand when my wife says, yes, I made sacrifices, just how often she was caving in to the, yeah, I didn't eat lunch today because I really didn't have time. That excuse works. And you end up spending $20, $30, $40 just like that. I'd be like, man, can we get the, for real, them Little Caesars, pizza, little $5 carryouts, them ain't $5 no more, my friend. If you thought that them was $5, them ain't $5. Subway took the commercial off. They ain't no $5 foot long no more. They took that jingle off. They said, don't even play that song on the radio no more. It's not a $5 sandwich no more. Even half of the Subway sandwich is not $5 anymore. They said it was a $5 foot long. You can't get half of the sandwich for $5 anymore. They used to have a dollar menu almost everywhere. They said, stop playing those commercials. Like, that's classic commercial now. You might as well be singing songs about the Slinky going down the stairs as the world's most popular toy. The Slinky was one of the best toys for a while. But that's not consistency. Every year it was something new. There's a new toy out this year. And it seemed like it never fails. Every time I got to pick my daughter up from school, she's hungry, which means I got to feed her every time. Kids got to eat every day. Kids got to eat every day. Every day. And because my son is like a senior, you would think that it gets like, okay, son, is you going to start pitching in on some of these meals? Like, I thought when you become a junior, you're supposed to be bringing fast food home. Like, you're supposed to have worked at KFC somewhere. So again, with my way of thinking and then reality hitting me, I have to learn to stop being so dismissive when my wife says fair. Because when she's saying, oh, you're asking about fairness and I'm dismissing it, just because I can change the word up and find a better word to make it make sense for me, doesn't mean that what she was saying was wrong. Consistency is a big value. So that one was big. I know it fits as something that I've been asking for, but here's my mind map on those values. There were 70 that were out there. And when I was looking at the list and selecting the ones that seemed to tell a story from my perspective, this is what my mind map looks like. So thank you for those of y'all that's been rocking with me this long. For those who are just in the clouds watching, if you want to look at the screen and see what makes up such a complicated mind, there are so many people who are like, I don't be understanding what the hell Moses be talking about. Good. Here's a mind map that might help you understand the values that I thought were important when I was looking at that list of 70. Now, again, if I go back over the list more thoroughly, I could find some that I believe would probably fit better than some of the ones that I've put here. But likewise, the ones that I've selected, we could talk about that as well. In the mind map or in this cluster exercise, each of these icons is independent. I had to clip them out and then put the little box around them. It was pretty tedious work, but nonetheless, I want to be able to give this PowerPoint to my wifey. She's going to do the same. If I reverse screens, I could probably share screen because I have a touch screen monitor. So the reason why is because when I touch screen, I can just grab it and move it to the right or move it to the left. And that way selecting them is now easier for her. She has a lot of different values that she likes that make my list. And then she has those that I didn't include on mine's. The center line was the one that was interesting for me. So the center line, as well as the corners of the mind map, what do you think is like the end game or the end piece or the furthest part, the extreme of said emotion or from the center map? So at the core or the center, I believe at the top of it is empathy. And I don't disagree with their icon. Next is ethics right underneath empathy, then integrity with the shield icon versus honesty with the heart icon. If you love somebody, you tell them the truth. I'm not able to do that all the time. There are people who I love, and there's a cold truth that I believe they actually need to hear. Like, no, I'm bringing you to the VA with me next time I go because there's a lot of veterans in my family. Like I really need to like damn near kidnap them, excuse me, my words, take them. Intervention is the word. Intervention or intercession, and bring them to the VA with me, some of my family members. I don't know if they are willing to go through the all of the layers of themselves, but at the very least, them going and seeing that it is a space where you can start to have that conversation about self and start to understand self. You can start there. Some of them need to come with me. So here's the mind map. Those are the four. At the bottom was justice. And justice is at the bottom and it's in red. And I'm going to start the next part of my conversation right here. Why is justice in red at the very bottom? Justice, and I color coded them for myself as I was understanding them. I started to categorize them. That's not necessary. You don't have to be categorical with the value itself, um, whether you agree or disagree with it. But I have a strong sense of connection to justice from the other side. I don't really feel like justice is a balanced scale. I disagree with it on premise. As a principle in America, it is I just disagree. And so I'm willing to have a conversation from my mind map then on what is my perspective on justice and what does that mean in America. There are a lot of people who use that word out of context, I believe, in the same way I believe that discipline is used out of context. Is it truly discipline if it lacks the consequences or the punishment? When we look at the discipline icon, which is to the left of project and right above accountability and consistency, we see discipline. They have a calendar and a bell like an alert, so meaning responding to things in an orderly or timely fashion. having a schedule or a structured life, things like that for discipline. So when I look at that part of my mind map, that's the functional executing things, what needs to be done. You see where justice is at the bottom and to the left, that left part of my mind map at the very bottom of it is decision making, which has directions that go back towards justice, towards what we're going to focus on, or up towards intelligence. I put a little bit more value in intelligence than even decision making. Yes, you can make decisions, but when we were in our struggle of period, my decisions would have led us off a cliff or into perpetual poverty. My decisions would have been to stay in the hood. It was not the right decision. So, yes, intelligence I would value a little bit more than, but it's just a different color for me. It's blue. It's like dreamy state. It's the idea state. On the bottom right corner are dreams. And I think that's where I get a lot of the negative association from. I have a tendency to attach negative things or negative feelings and emotions to the dream state. Oh, that's not reality. That's fake. That's delusion. That's dreamy. What's real? Get real. Which is why justice is at the very bottom. That's a dream. That's a pipe dream that it would be equity or fairness or things like that. However, they want to change the words. Because for me, justice is executed functionally. We see that moving to the left with accountability. So you have decision making, there's a lot of decisions. Focus on what decision you want to make as we're looking through the values, talking to the left. You choose what you focus on. And from there, there's a list of accountability. That's what you measure accountability on, whatever you choose to focus on. If you're focusing on that, then yes, you're holding people accountable for that you're focusing on. If you do that, I know passion is an important one, but passion is one that it's more dream state, which is why people would say it about me. But I was like, wifey, why do you keep saying I'm passionate? I don't really think that that's the one that actually speaks to me. And so she sees something more in me still that I have yet to recognize. But if you do that, though, you start seeing that consistently because you're only focused on the things that you want either to be held accountable for or that you're saying this is what accountability looks like. And so consistency. But as a matter of function, if we move up from justice being just a matter of function, something that's executed, there's the integrity. And then on my left side of my brain, again, where intelligence is big, we see next to that the project that one's working on, or above intelligence, the one that was most curious, I mean, that was most interesting to me was energy. It's also blue. It was dream state. It was like in an ideal world, we can just go off of the energy that we have towards each other. But for me, it really hit like it means something. Yes, like you can really feel energy. You can feel people's energy in the presence of people, including that negative feeling. It's a stiffening feeling, which is why it got even higher than intelligence. That is a change for me. I would have thought that I valued intelligence higher than energy. But in grand conversations, and once the mind starts mapping it out, that's the way it kind of flowed. It's still dream state, but it was like, no, I vest a lot of my safety or a lot of where I go and who I rock with on whether or not I feel safe. Don't go XYZ. Why would you not want to go there? Why would you not want to take your wife there? Well, if you know that place is sketch, then don't take your wife and kids there. That's a feeling. As a young dumb nigga, I was like, well, the hood that I was raised on, this street right here, though it looks tough on the outside, at least I know these niggas. It was dumb logic back then. I could try to make it make sense even today, but it really doesn't. But staying on the street that was the most dangerous, I felt safer. You can make it make sense for yourself some other time. I won't try to walk us through that whole conversation. But it was about the feeling more than the intelligence. That's not smart. Their danger. Anyway, all right. So from intelligence, it's the project. Once you focused, like with decision making, I'll go back to the bottom. Intelligence, once you start to focus that intelligence on a singular project with discipline consistently, those are functions. They're showing the interplay of quality. You can find a higher quality if you're focusing your decisions and being accountable to the project that you're working on with discipline. So you got it scheduled, you can start to improve the quality. Other ways of that, which is where it gets higher, it's also a red box for me. I kind of talk about these. I said left right thinking. Oh, I have my notes, excuse me. Left right thinking has organized the values according to my mind map. Colors indicate confidence in that categorical alignment. Green are individualized, objective aims to self actualize. So if I put it green, I thought that this was a very personal thing about me, what I wanted to do in my life. How can I do something better with myself? In my left thinking or my executive functioning mind, I think that that's top left in the mind map. Those values that are very individualistic, what I'm going to do to achieve a good thing in the world, I put as green. And then if I'm confident that that's very individualistic, I kind of made it a lot green. So personal growth seems to be a very individual aim. Empathy being my center line, if I move left of empathy, I'm focusing on my own personal growth. If I move right of my empathy, I'm moving towards compassion for others. So let me see. In my notes, I put purple are other, essentially other people focused values. So when you're not just focusing on yourself, or maybe you are inclusive of self, but you're now taking that outside of yourself to be inclusive of others. And as far as you get outside of one's individual self would be the opposite end of that spectrum. So dreams. Leadership is taking charge of what I can, and I'm self-determining that I can do something, I can make it. If I'm an individual leader of my own business and initiatives, that's that's the ideal complete leader right there in my mind map. I don't work for anybody else. I am the leader, and all of these other people now are responsive for me, but I'm not really responsible for them. I'm the leader. The opposite end of that spectrum are dreams, where they're, in a sense, I thought negatively of this side of myself, where it was just, oh, stop dreaming and get to work. If I'm only by myself as an individual, left side, versus if I'm including more people, which is loyalty, which is why that's the corner of my mind map. But moving outside, moving from empathy to compassion, then there's the generosity, actual commitment, which is more than just generosity, giving somebody some money if they need it, or being in a position to provide financial resources to people who are in need. There's the actual commitment to help those folks, i.e., $1,700-$1,800 a month. And then influence, where you're not just making an individual commitment to be generous to one person because you're empathetic towards what they're going through, but now you're using your influence to help them in other ways. So as you see, relationship is a big one here as it comes towards the top right way of thinking and connecting to others. But as I move down from there, not down in value really, like they are the other, there are other values that I associate with me when it comes to all of these values that I think are important. Down from empathy is ethics, where I guess it was just written what was right or wrong. Are you ethical? So you can tell me a story, and this is where I was gullible. And if you need my help, I will help you, whether it was right or wrong. Before I get to whether you were right or wrong, with many people, I don't get to ethics with them because if you tug my heartstrings, I'm generous. I have compassion. I'm going to give you the money for less. Where it becomes a problem or where my wife intervenes is because that could then be deemed as a commitment, especially when it comes to contracts and people signing contracts. Nowadays, they're talking about in the manosphere sector, they're saying, well, you need to have women sign non-disclosure agreements if they're even coming over to your house. I'm like, whoa, what? And if that's the society that they're living in, that seems like a harsh reality. Because in my family, I it was the opposite end. People would go to the people in my family like Big Mom and them. Their house was almost like an open door policy for meals. You could always get something to eat. It was a soup kitchen. So I did not know the level of discernment that says somebody has to sign like a waiver for their life in perpetuity just to visit their neighbor. That level of paranoia or that level of buy-in that I'm going to sue you or you're going to sue me, of fear, I didn't know resonated with men. But yes, there are some males or young men who are perpetuating a message that we have to be so afraid of the opposite sex that they have to sign non-disclosure agreements just to come over to the house. All right. So ethics, for me, on the right side of ethics is communication. And then there's optimism, that you're going to communicate positively. There's family care. Again, it's liable to move into commitments. And the commitment that my wife wants me to recognize has a higher degree of value. And I keep saying my wife because she is like the primary steward of this conversation. I'm getting better at communicating, but I'm also getting better at understanding my own emotions for me, but also because my wife deserves to have somebody who's not coming unhinged, yelling at the top of my lungs and shit over dumb, petty ass shit. She's like, no, I had an epiphany. We're really at conflict over which values are being, right now, family care or family coming over for the holidays is huge. We have a home, so family are going to come to our home. So that then, as the division of labor is, well, that means we have to have a fuller refrigerator, a fuller pantry. So $1,700 ain't enough. I'm the baby and I'm 41. Everybody that wants to come is going to probably bring their family. They're not going to bring family. I'm not having my family members sign no fucking non-disclosure agreement to come over to my house for the holidays. But if that is the wisdom that's being perpetuated across social media, I'll say it this way. The president, and I know family is one way, we protect each other to the best degree. So now let's say extended family. My mom and dad were one who took from my big mama. My big mama was the one who was like a soup kitchen. Any and everybody. No need. If you're hungry, you can eat. Communication was the next layer where if you communicate to them that you were in need, then my parents would help you out. So I can probably think that I got that from there. And it was only the layer of optimism that said, you're telling the truth. But if you came and you were hungry, you could have a plate. If you came through and you were hungry, you could eat while you're here and you can have a plate to go. I can only imagine living in a community where there were no home. You're telling me that those young men had no homes that they could go to go get a plate to eat food? That's how bad their neighborhoods were. That's how bad the mud was. There was nobody that they could go to get a plate to eat from. If that's their reality, that's where the empathy and compassion come in for even those males. But as somebody who says social media is about imparting a message and having a message go out there, I disagree. I don't think that it's necessary that in order for people to visit your house, they have to have a non-disclosure agreement and all of that other stuff. For me, it was important to understand that when my wife is saying, yes, well, this holiday, can we minimize it to just the immediate family? That's a different way of understanding it and understanding family care. Of course, my wife doesn't do that. She doesn't try to limit me to immediate family. She is welcoming of cousins and everyone, aunties, anyone who wants to come can come through. I would be the one that's limiting, like, damn, is we really about to feed all of them people? And of course, I would be limiting of it because I'm like, you know, that that's coming out of an actual bank account. You want to do the right thing and you want to be generous. And yes, we love family. All right, got you. And so we do like Novemberites, and we hosted Novemberites last year. And Novemberites is cool because we have, if like, I guess it's like conceived February 14th, and then November, you have all these November babies. So we have so many November babies, I guess these Valentine babies, products of Valentine's Day, that we just said for the holidays, everybody birthday who's in November, we all coming together. And my mom was the one who used to bring everybody together, and we get like the township, the whatever timeshare is what it's called. And then if you put in like, let's say like $150, $200, $300, it depends on what you put in on the size of the facility, like 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, time sharing. But the whole family would come together, and it's basically on my mom's dime or my mom's credit card, and then whatever, however they do the timeshares, you pay, and then all the family is there for the holidays. My wife decides that they should come to Arizona with us. And so now we're trying to do the timeshare here in Arizona, and we're trying to get as many family members who are mostly familiar with where they're at to come all the way to Arizona. And then there's other instances where my wife likes to assume those roles of providing for everybody. Like when she wanted to attend her niece's graduation from high school. And there were so many of us that could go that the plane tickets, once again, she's a woman. She has every right to look at her husband and say, now make it enough, make it happen. And me, I have every right to say, whoa, when I get to looking at the prices of some of this, make it enough. Because you handed me $1 bill talking about flying 14 people to Detroit. I love you a lot, a lot. I love you with a big ass heart. Choose you, baby. I choose you. Are we equally yoked and spiritually divined, anointed to be together? I don't know about all that super spiritual shit. I've read a lot of the Bible verses and stuff that says that's the way it should be and ought to be. But the way my checking and savings was set up, now that it's time to go visit your sister, whose daughter is graduating from this is another example. But my wife said, no, we're not flying. We can get like one of them big 15 passengers and we can all go to Detroit. And then we just, make it happen with gas and food and snack while we going. Like, yeah, we can make that happen. So she's a make it happen type person. Even if it's like $15,000 is what she's looking at, she done already started to make it happen before she needs the money to make it happen. And then when it's time to make it happen, now we're We're just in, are you all aboard? It's time to go. But again, when it's time to make those type of decisions, who can spend $15,000 on what they would otherwise or their partner would? If I consider a $15,000 purchase frivolous, I know I don't need her permission to go in and get my $15,000 purchase. The problem is when she wanted to go spend $15,000. That's when I thought I could raise my voice and become, oh, macho man about what the hell she got going. And that was a me problem. All right. Ethics and communication, once you're optimistic and you've included the family that you're willing to include. My homeboys, I consider family. But every once in a while, a wife does have the right to say, can we keep it family? Or at least through these hours, like when we're opening gifts and things. Can we keep it family? But leave it to my mind map. Once you get beyond family, you start thinking about a whole mission. How can I help more people? Especially if you've made some type of commitments, you're already generous, your family's in a pretty good position. You start thinking mission. And then from there, you start thinking charity. And Sugar Bomb helped some. We was talking to a lady in the B1 Network last night on Taz Exclusives channel. And she helped somebody start a charity. And then she ended up like working for the same charity. So she's probably somebody who can relate to this. And my mind map, just that one little part of the value where it says charity. Once you have that heart to do for one person, if it does start to grow from there to the right and get bigger and bigger, then it starts to like manifest itself in other ways. Grandmother had the soup kitchen. I'm not necessarily a soup kitchen type person. And my wife, while she does know how to throw down in that kitchen, she became a doctor because she didn't consider herself a stay pregnant and barefoot and in the kitchen type woman. She had to correct me on dismissing her values and the ones that she finds important. And in order to say, I love you, I went and actually grabbed some values and said, well, let me look at my own mind and see what I value. And let's put some of these together. So again, let's get below ethics. Ethics deals with integrity, right? So there is the right and the wrong thing in a balanced scale. So integrity then is doing what you said you were going to do. And then justice at the bottom is, and if you don't, what are those consequences? Again, with discipline, having the inclusion of consequences. I don't feel like America is a good representation of justice. That's on the very lower rung of values, but because justice is a value to me, there are oftentimes where I'm triggered by injustices in society, and I bring that energy into my bedroom. I bring the same toxic energy that one may have dispelled in an intellectual academic debate somewhere. I bring it into my home. And the person who's responsible for ingesting, processing, and then releasing the toxicity of my energy that I've absorbed from social media, from the news, from all the things that are happening outside of my relationship, because of my value for justice, I bring it into my relationship. So look to the right where it's like guidance. I don't think very highly of those who I think are super dependent on the government. How can I say that if I'm a veteran, a disabled veteran at that? That is the epitome of somebody who's dependent on the government. But does it necessarily mean they are guiding your every decision? I don't know. It was the lower bottom part. But to the right of guidance is the principle of right, to which I think I be yelling about. That moves towards a vision which gets written down. Where there is no vision, the people perish, is a proverb type way of thinking about it. But what is the bigger picture? The bigger picture from what the principle of right is to me, or based off of the books that I've read, the Holy Bible being one, or I haven't read the entire Bible, so let me stop saying that, but as a book, and then the many other books that I've read and what I call intelligence, or the all of that put together, knowledge, skills, set, and experience, if it keeps getting broader and broader or away from a specific accomplishment, if it goes away from functioning things like projects, I have this to work on, I have these deadlines, the less tangible it becomes, the further right it is for me. Like the vision or curiosity in itself for the sake of wanting to know. And then dreams. Some people struggle in making their own business plan because they look at the wording and what's supposed to be what. Like, is this the mission or the vision? Which one's more specific? Which one is attainable right now, today? And on Minds, we see that mission comes higher right, which is the mission to help more people, versus the grandiose vision where we're just dealing with principles. If everybody dealt with principles and everybody had a center line around what is ethical, being integrous, or having honest, however people define integrity, I can get into it, but and then what does justice actually look like if it wasn't just the pipe dream? The top of my mind map deals with humans. The bottom of it deals with processes and subjective. So again, the top is objective, the bottom is subjective. The left is individual, concrete, let's do it. The right is more abstract, what we might believe needs to be done. And I don't know too many people who would do their values this comprehensively for you. Empathy from an individual level moves towards personal growth, becoming more competent. And if you move up in competence, it starts to show as excellence. But with that competence, you're building on your key abilities that you can only do on projects. You keep putting your key abilities towards things that aren't projects, or trying to put your key abilities towards dreams, and wondering why your energy feels so disconnected or unfulfilled. Maybe you're higher today in how much you value competent leadership. I know on an individual level, competence matters a lot more than if you're in a group and the team is able to disseminate some of that incompetence and offset it with, well, this person specializes in, this person specializes in, this person specializes in, and this person specializes in. But I also know that in order to get their teamwork, you have to move from empathy and communication to collaboration. And if you're able to collaborate, then yes, you might make a better team, better team player. If you can move from teamwork, then you can start building community, or outside of a team, moving into broader teams. And if you're able to benefit communities, then you're able to have social responsibility as a core value. Your entire entity itself doesn't have to be a charity to recognize social responsibility as a value. And now look at this bottom right where the principle of right, this red one stands out to me. Let me go to my notes. Black, red, and gray are systems, process, and function specific subordinate values to me. These were subordinate. They were about systems. They were about just getting the job done, just functioning. That's why they're on the a lot of them on the left. You see, if we're moving from ethics, which is doing the right thing at the right time for the right people for the right reasons, and putting your energy into ethical leadership, using your key abilities and how you can do so, finding an innovative way to contribute to that with discipline on those projects. If you can do so in an innovative way, Now you move towards being reliable at that thing that you're good at as an individual. You're reliable. You're a subject matter expert. Do that a lot with your time, and that's productivity. Do that efficiently, and now you have high quality. It's also consistency, and it's also a mark of achievement of a leader, somebody who's led in their specific area. So that's the top left for me. Let's get back to the regular values and get off of B1 Brother Moses. I'm done with my rant. We will come back in a while and see if any of those values have been taken out or removed or replaced. Which ones do I think are more important in, let's say, 2030? I'm not going to do the whole, well, in the year 2050, it's going to be a whole, I'll say in the year 2030. Let's see if those values still align the same. Inshallah. Now, personal growth. I broke down the personal, the definition of affecting or belonging to a particular person rather than to anyone else. And then growth, the process of increasing in physical size. So personal growth being important to some people, while otherwise they would find themselves more secure working for a corporation, just doing whatever the corporation tells them to do. That corporation can be telling them, like in military sense, to go and catch bodies. And because they're a part of that corporation, there's value there. It could be a corporation of the funeral home, and they could work at a funeral home, or they could be the person who embalms the people and make them presentable to the loved ones. Whatever it is that they do in career for that level, that's a part, but not necessarily personal growth. For me, I thought personal growth was about, the mental health, the social element. Am I becoming a better communicator? Do people like me? Am I being more agreeable than less agreeable? What are the areas that I'm challenging myself to be better to others? I did not know that I was supposed to be as paranoid about other people's behaviors than I am. I have a reservation against, like, I think somebody, Taz said it last night. I think he said, I prejudge. Yes, I have prejudices that I've generalized against entire groups, but I did not know that I was supposed to just make that a blanket thing for everybody. Nobody can come to my house and all of those things. So now we're moving into a thing that's challenging my very character, my belief system, my principles, the crux of who I am, the foundation of the people who were around me, the grandmother who had the soup kitchen or operating a soup kitchen, the parents who said, I don't care if you're telling me that this kid is a at-risk troubled youth, he's hungry, he gets a plate. If he needs a place to sleep, he can sleep on the couch for the night. He's not homeless tonight. And then moving into the space of economics, those who can actually help people financially with generosity or even moving into other charities. Personal growth meant actualizing dreams that I was denying, like asking yourself, well, what is it that you actually want to do? And then why are you not doing it? Is it the amount of money that you think you should be paid? Is that what it is that stops you from doing what it is that you really value? You spend 75% of your time in sales away from family while saying and emphasizing you emphasize family. But if you truly want to spend more time with your family, why is it that when it's time to pick up your daughter, you're acting real light skinned when she's saying she's hungry? It's only $40, $50. Spend that little $40, $50 and make sure your baby gets something to eat because she didn't eat lunch. I'd be like, nah, see? So again, that's me checking me, going through these. Let me put one of these comments up. It's a good pivot point. Get me out of my own trauma bag, my own conversation point. Son don't really have uncles. I'm replacing them niggas too. Brother Moses is uncle now. My older sister, the auntie, what auntie Queen Cascade is auntie. That's what I'm talking about. My wife was naturally somebody that people felt safe confiding with. Like they will like literally ask her for money when they're doing bad. shit that they won't even post on social media. Like they could have a GoFundMe, they could set up one of those things when they're doing bad. Yes, oftentimes we say, oh, when somebody dies, now they have the GoFundMe and the car wash up. No, it's in life they are not saying, hey, I'm actually doing bad and need help. I heard that Brother Mumu said that last night. He was like, well, people aren't saying when they're doing bad. They're not coming on to social media saying, you know, I'm doing bad. People are coming to social media when they're doing good or posting pictures of good times on social media. Well, that don't help veterans like myself who suffer with PTSD and have a family of folks who suffer from stuff. We got bags and bags and bags of stuff that we suffer from. And when you're bringing that together as a holiday experience, while she's my wife, I can cuss at the other niggas. Them niggas is not finna cuss at my wife. Nigga, I will fight brothers, cousins, uncles, all of them niggas. They have the tendency to say shit like, hey, bring me a plate. Nigga, if you don't sit your country bunking at, and see, this is where I start losing a lot of people. I be like, man, hey, OG, if you don't sit your country ass down and ask one of your women or one of your children to make you a plate, but you got whole sisters out here, motherfucker, trying to yell at my wife, hey, make me a plate, bring me a plate. That type of shit be like, whoa, nigga, slow down. But from the South, if the woman's in the kitchen, why can't she bring them a plate is the way that they think about shit. Oh, she just making everybody plates. No, she ain't. Oh, is she only gonna make her kids a plate? No, she ain't. She gonna make her husband a plate as well. And she gonna make herself a plate. But the cousin that hollers at the wife, hey, make me a plate while I'm in there. I'm not that cousin. So yeah, we end up falling out at family reunions, and they do a lot more than just yell, bring me a plate when the spirits are high. She the wife. She's willing to suck it up and wave, smile and wave to a certain extent. But wifey ain't really cussing people out like that. She works in like schools. Again, she's in the education space. She got a like the the ED, the doctorate of education, the doctorate nonetheless. Dr. Jenkins, she earned her stripes. I ain't diminishing none of that shit. Defended her dissertation, technology and education. It's broad thinking, big dream state, getting a computer in every household type thinking. So she's not really yelling. The example that she wants to set is not one that says, I can out violence you. The one that she also is not trying to set is, I can out submit you. Like the women who are there, and they are the ones who would make anybody a plate. Homeboys, it could be anybody, just walk straight off the street. I'm saying there's a perspective, right? They want us to hold on to traditional values. My wife is not one who really assumes those. She doesn't fit the role of what my grandmama did, like opening up a soup kitchen. She said, nah, I'd rather make more money and have a career than to open a soup kitchen. And then the traditional of, does a woman take care of her man by making him a plate? And then how do you respect the other men in his family? Is it a disrespect for my wife to say, nigga, please? If you don't get your ass up and make you a plate, something like that. Like, she might not come at them niggas like that because she's not a dominant type style when it comes to confrontation. She's picked a different enemy that she's at conflict with. It's the education ecosystem. She thinks that that is a more worthy battle for her time and her value every day. If she can find some resolution with what's wrong with the education system, then she finds solace, not in placating to what I want and who I think she should make a plate for. My dad opened up the doors. The homeboys are hungry. If they want to eat, they're more than welcome to get a plate. That means we're accepting people inside of our space as they behave. There are varying degrees of tolerance to which a man, or I guess my wife, are expected to have. Tolerance, patience, long suffering, y'all could get him to Jesus. Because not only has it been those instances where little brother puts his hands on big brother, and then we don't like the results of what happens when they all out in the front yard fighting and the cousins is fighting and they in the backyard fighting. Wives don't like to see that shit either. Now there are some, like I do have examples of the women who are on the bonobo or the ratchet side or the thought side, or they bout that drama. They will put them hands and mitts on you. The women folk, I got those family members as well. But for the most part, they tend to not want to see the family get into it physically. And it's always over dumb shit. It'd be over petty dumb shit. But when the spirits are high. But I also fight friends of the family. So family can get it. We have our internal family feuds. And then the homeboys, they from the streets. They hood niggas. Their tradition, their way of functioning in life, and where they set their levels of respect and what respect is defined as and what it's not going to be. And they have their nuances as well. I ain't had to fight no uncles though. The uncle, that nigga burned me with a cigarette. So the alcoholic uncle who was like a traveler, but not like a passport bro. He just couldn't stay still. Uncle Joe, Joe Boy at that, Joe Boy, old school ways, just stayed out there in the streets, like for anything. And he was for the streets. I didn't have to fight him, but he was trying to do that horse playing shit. The uncles, if they have to horse you, they're probably seriously not serious or seriously not playing. If the uncles are finna horse the nephews, they're probably serious but not playing. Or seriously joking or something like that. Like if they really wanted to do more damage, they could. So it's one of those ones where the uncle, burnt the nigga with a cigarette. Like, oh, ain't this some bullshit? So I went and told Big Mama on his punk ass, just like the baby of the family should. I'm the baby. Y'all may not be the baby, and y'all probably didn't have the privilege. If you didn't have the privilege to go to talk to Big Mama. But otherwise, you're going to have to deal with Uncle if you in a male-centered space, or where the men are trying to do what men do and the women are doing what women do. And then there's every once in a while the women who can cross over and try to do what men do, such as play dominoes or spades. And then there's the men who think they want to be in the women's spaces and have the conversation with what the women are doing. But every once in a while there's that pullover where we have conflict. They think that because a woman is in the kitchen making plates, that means that they get to now holler at said woman, who is my wife, woman, make me a plate. Nah, not uncle, not homeboy, not cousin, not brother. That's my wife. You're going to have to get your own. Personal growth for me is understanding that all of those different facets and nuances are going to happen. I had I had a good role in being the baby boy. I had a good run when Big Mama was alive, of telling on the uncles and them, my bad, y'all niggas. Now that I've had a couple of more conversations with some folks, I realized that was me. I was the nigga telling Big Mama. I asked the question, did that give y'all a right to go all in? That nigga burned me with a cigarette. That motherfucker should have been more responsible for what he was doing. How the hell you burn your nephew? Oh, nephew, I wasn't trying to do no fucking. Nigga, you burnt me with a cigarette. Nigga, be more careful. When they are the aggriever, the ones who are acting out and doing shit that I don't like horsing, they feel just as justified in horsing the little nigga. So for me growing up, I felt justified telling Big Mama, because they didn't want Big Mama to horse with they punk ass. What that meant was I was cutting off the economic pipeline for Big Mama, though, because they used to use Big Mama address and shit, and that's where they got their mail sent. And if they not in good favor with Big Mama, some of them niggas is really going hungry, because they thought that they was players. No, they were failures. That player shit was the ultimate rejection of an intimate partner for long periods of time. Them niggas was just hungry, fronting, Well, that nigga burnt me with that cigarette. Nigga, I still remember that shit. But no, I didn't have to fight any of my uncles, though. That nigga did burn me. But cousins and shit, yeah. Personal growth was different than just growth. The process of increasing in physical size, or we can get the other definitions. I thought personal growth was more important than just growth. Someone said, well, I'm interested in growing in more areas of my life. It's not just my personal experience. Like, I actually help others. And so when I dismiss those people who are interested in growth, not necessarily personal growth, the message that I was reinforcing is one of selfishness. That left mind, that executive me mind, versus the mind that says, well, if you believe that other people can be of a benefit, then why not make it available for others to benefit? And then growth, if it can grow beyond just an economic growth, you made more money this year than you made last year. Why wouldn't you want a growth that's more encompassing than just saying, oh, I want personal growth? Personal growth made my mind map, growth did not. Organization, a group of people who work together in an organized way for a shared purpose. There are some who have not had a job yet. These dudes, I'm the baby of the baby. I got to tell Big Mama. And they still have not worked for an organization. As shocking as it is, they do not value organization one bit. Communication, we saw that this was closer to my center line. The imparting or exchanging information or news. I think that's important in just the human experience, and it connects me to some of those other ones, like where I get to be more generous, or where I get to support a charity or an organization that's already doing good works that are ethical, just works. Not just the pipe dreams, but actualizing through projects, deadlines, and schedules. They can show you that they are contributing to the good work. The principle of right. Core values for me run into either or dilemmas. When there were 70 on the list, I was like, let me pick the ones. And then I just started picking the ones. But if I had to pick 15, in my mind, the way my mind thinks about it, I start to say, well, either this one or this one. And that's not necessarily the case. The heart is able to process quite a bit more values. And then to how much intensity or effort, how are those values being expressed in real time? Are you investing in money or time and research, whatever it is that you do? It doesn't necessarily have to be the either or dilemma, though. But I did understand when I was going through this that I was creating a either or dilemma in my mind, like I had to choose one or the other. That's again reinforcing that message that, look, do not dismiss other people's values. I'm slapping myself on the hand. My wife having a conversation. Moses, you are very loved. You're appreciated. But when this is like from my wife, now that I'm thinking it through, she said she had the epiphany, but she's saying, Moses, you are loved, you're appreciated. But when you want to discipline the world or let the world know that they're not doing what you want them to do, your energy becomes it's like vitriol. Like they could see it written all over your face. You're angry, you walk into a room. When you're happy, people can like that. But when you're mad at the world, it's checkable. I'm like, what? It's checkable. When you are mad at the world, it's checkable. I'm using words that make sense to me as I'm having this conversation. But in order to check it, she did it very sly, very good way. She said she had the epiphany. Let's use mirror talk as if she was talking about herself. She was like, I'm realizing that we may be experiencing different value sets that are expressed right now. Whereas you're valuing yourself, your independence, you're looking at life from what are you trying to actualize? Where we're at in our relationship, we're helping others. And so I can look back at the map, or I can keep saying the either or dilemma, but either or for core values, the ones that I put there on the right: competence for the individual. Here's what I was doing. I'll say it this way. I was looking at it from the lens of its corporate relationships or transactional relationships. And I was asking myself, which one was preferable? Somebody that is a subject matter expert, but they cannot execute at what it is they can talk about. The non-expert that can only contribute to a team. If you put them by themselves, they're not really an expert. They're just going to be lost. They will always need somebody on the team to help them. They're good at what they do, but they're not the expert. And then finally, the individual achiever who can do it and they want to be left alone. You put them on a team, they can't help anybody else. When I was thinking about the core values, what I was struggling with was an either or dilemma where I was saying it has to be either or. And I was using this forensic line of thinking. I was saying it's like corporate America, the subject matter expert who's not able to do it, the non-expert that can contribute on a team, but they suck. They didn't earn the promotion. They're not a subject matter expert. They're not researching, but they can help. They know what they know and they can help. Or that individual achiever who just wants to be left alone. And that's how I was thinking about it. And I'm saying today that that was the wrong way for me to be thinking about it. Family care, big issue. Welcome to the holidays. It causes an emotional energy for the husband because it causes an economic impact for the husband. Whereas some families will not spend $15,000 on a holiday, some will. Wifey may want to only spend $1,700 this month just specifically on the holiday because it is. Or she may want to go a lot over, like 6,000 or something like that. But the value that she's exhibiting is family care, and she's actively supporting the well-being of persons in addition to herself. All right, now I wrote this one. Minimizing language, such as the word family or care, influences the decision process. When I was looking at selecting this value, when I saw family care, I was like, oh, if that means that I have to now buy everybody else dinner, then I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't care that much. They better pay for their own meal. I got my family, which is my wife and my kids. And if they're going to the restaurant, I'm assuming that they can pay their own way. And wifey was more along the lines of, no, if we are inviting them out to eat with us, then we are assuming the responsibility of the cost of their meal. I'm like, babe, that is a lot of eaters. You're not even talking about picky eaters. You're talking about eaters. They're not going to go in there and nitpick around. Oh, I just want this little. Give me. No, they want a lot. And while she can say, well, it's on me, I got this one, I'm still a husband. And I'm like, nah, that is unsettling. So holidays are about family care as a value and showing her care and support for people outside of just me, her, and the kids. And it really fucking matters to her that she prepared a meal for the people in her extended family, that if they were hungry, they got fed by her. When I think of family, I often limit kin folks and non-blood relatives. All right, I went through these notes pretty good already. Polar association bias, this or that. It's another way that I was thinking about it, where I put two at opposite ends. I say, well, problem solving is what I want to do as an individual. I don't want a team trying to tell me. You got groupthink, you got all those people that come together and they still you're paying 4 people to get the job done when really you only needed 1 person. So you see, the inside the head is a puzzle piece of the person solving. They have a puzzle piece themselves, versus the teamwork icon uses 4 puzzle pieces that were brought together. I was struggling with teamwork because I was like, nah, I didn't been in some teams where I end up pulling the entire load for the team. They won't do their research. Not only did they not do the research to be familiar with what we're talking about, they don't write. So they didn't write out any of the thoughts. There's no executive summary. You're like, okay, you want to start a business, the business plan. Why are you struggling with the business plan? Well, they struggle with the business plan because they didn't know if it was the mission or the vision. No, there's a lot more that can be written down that should be. And I struggled on so many teams because they didn't want to write, let alone do the research. Polar association, though, was to say, well, this one is the opposite of that one, so I like this one more. Saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying when you're having conversations with people, just because you have a preference on what value you like more doesn't give you the grounds to make them the polar opposite and then say, well, because I like mine's more, that means yours is not a value or not of value or not a value. And the diminishing language, once it's the behavior of yelling, where it's like, well, I'm not finna do all that yelling, cussing, and you're throwing in cuss words. This is my wife, right? So she's not telling me like this. She doesn't complain like this. But all of the yelling that I was doing and then putting in the cuss words, I wasn't deeming that bad behavior. I wasn't deemed like, if I consider the romance period of the relationship, when I was courting her and wooing her and trying to get her attention with fluffery words, that's the opposite of yelling. That is the polar opposite. If I love this woman, why am I screaming at her? There are people who have done wrong to a whole lot of people who I have never yelled at. But this woman who is with me every day, I'm yelling at, and I find it normal behavior to yell and use cuss words when I'm speaking at or chastising, disciplining, however it is we want to make it. When I'm yelling at the woman who I claim to love so much, I'm using those same cuss words that if I go to a job and disagree with them, I know to filter out. Nah, I was yelling at that woman that I love so much because that's where I felt I felt that behavior was okay. And then the other part of this masculinity argument is saying, well, does she deserve to be yelled and cussed at? Because you're not going to keep pissing on her leg and calling it rain, saying that it's you. It's you. It's you. Nah, nigga, sometimes it do be Moses, brother Moses, who does need to listen. Me yelling louder makes it that much easier for me not to listen. Me throwing in more cuss words makes it easier not to listen. Oh, I'm problem solving. I need a problem solver. I need a problem solver. This or that, teamwork. If we just come together and unify, we can all get it done. But we need okay. All right, let's get to the next one. See, this is me identifying that there were some things that I was doing that was holding me back from getting to that dream or ideal state in the relationship. There was behaviors that I exhibit towards the woman that I love that she has every right to say, yeah, don't treat me like that. If you still believe that it's okay to yell and scream at the top of your lungs at your wife, all right, go get you some help. Go talk to somebody at the VA. Go yell at those doctors and those people until you can get all of the yelling out of your system. Because no, my wife does not deserve to be yelled and cussed at. Who the fuck do I think I am cussing at my own wife? And yeah, there are some women who are with the shit. They accept all of that shit. They accept the nigga that smoke. They accept the nigga that drink. They accept the nigga that stink. They accept the nigga that cuss. And they just say, oh, that's typical male behavior. No, there are also women who have never normalized accepting being treated like that. And just because there are women who they say are strong or tougher women who have normalized allowing themselves to be cussed at and screamed at, and all of that is just a part of a relationship. That's in, if you're gonna accept If you're gonna accept people, you're gonna have to understand that men cuss and scream. Nah, that's not a sign of masculinity. Being able to cuss is not a sign of masculinity, just like if a woman cusses, that's not a sign that she's masculine identified. That don't make you a better man because you cuss louder. It don't make you none of that shit. Niggas do that shit because they want to. They use cuss words because they want to. They know how to filter those in and out. They cuss at their wives because that's the behavior that they want to demonstrate. For whatever reason, they want to cuss at their wives. And I'm telling you, my wife was like, yeah, we're going to have to work on that. You can go cuss at them people at the hospital. Go talk to a shrink if you think that it's okay to cuss at a wife. Because the other energy is more appreciated if you love her and don't have to cuss at her. When you feel like you need to cuss at her, go talk to your shrink. You're in a crisis because there are a lot of people that you know are doing dirt. They're treating women like shit in the world. Why are they free of your vitriol? Go find one of them to cuss at. Don't cuss at your wife. Now, again, it's your tolerance level. Some people, it's around cussing. I got uncles that have still not got a job in their entire grown life. And their women that have been with them were not allowed to establish credit. These motherfuckers got like a 500 or no credit or 500 credit score. I've started getting a little bolder, like, hey, what's your credit score? They be like, oh, my shit fucked up. I asked one person, it was like 655. I was like, man, you need to sigh for relief. If you want a higher credit score, we can work with that. 655, we can work with that. But I'm not going to allow you to just keep being broke around me because I feel like it's going to be disrespectful if I talk to you about money or things that matter. How are you saving? Talking to my brother, I was asking him, we had a conversation. He was like, he's saving $300 a month. I was like, nigga, good shit if you can get to the point of saving $300 a month. And I was like, how? And that's where the conversation grew. He was like, I started looking into treasuries and bills and some other things that he's looking at. Because normal conversations would tend to stay away from how much money do you make? How much money are you saving? Nigga, what's your credit score? But around the holidays, in my family, niggas start bringing up shit that makes niggas want to fight. Maybe that's just my family. We get around each other and now we it'd be cool for a little minute. We laugh and we got the jokes. And then all of a sudden, when the spirits are high, them jokes don't be funny no more. Somebody said something that was a little bit too funny. It's only funny when you're able to laugh at the inside joke. It's not so funny when the other people are now laughing at you and you are the joke that they're laughing at. I.e., I'm baby boy and I didn't knock my teeth out twice. You're like, Moses, you need to stop fucking with people or stop fucking whatever you're doing. And you need to slow down, nigga, guard your grill. I'm like, shit. Nigga, I was trying shit. Didn't work out, nigga. People got different lives, different thresholds. Some people can tolerate some levels of respect. Like I had a big brother who had to check me one time. He was like, man, you ain't never going to get comfortable calling me a bitch. Because there was that episode where it was somehow going through the neighborhood and little boys, 14, 15, start calling each other bitch. Like, shut up, bitch. You can, if you're in the gaming or whatever it is, or if you're following any of the gaming streams, or if you know of any, like T Grizzly Gaming, go to it. You'll see that they're now grown men and they call each other bitch. Shut up, bitch. Bitch, shut up, bitch. And they just say it beginning, middle, end of the sentence. Like nicknames, they call each other bitch. And my older brother was one to say, you will never get comfortable calling me that shit. But yes, in this world, there is some acceptance. There are men who would accept being called bitch, just like there are women who accept being called bitch. And that is just different levels of threshold. I don't think that that's good, positive teamwork, though. I don't think that it's going to get to solving any of the problems that one might want to address in this world. Me having that vitriol or thinking that my wife was somebody who I could cuss at like that was wrong. Particularly once it goes towards, okay, this woman is not your wife, and you think that you can call her a bitch. Out of all of these niggas that you can have any degree of issue with, You find it in yourself to lose your cool, your man. You're willing to throw your life. Like if you got to go to jail, then so be it. If they got to throw you under the jail, then so be it. Over another woman's communication, she said something to you, and now you finna bitch her all the way out to the point of violence. It's like, yeah, Moses, this is wifey now, saying, Moses, if you get to that point where women are able to take you out of body and now you're willing to throw your life away over what women are saying, you need to go talk to somebody. And particularly if you think that it's all right to degrade women the way that it don't work out well for those niggas who think that they can treat women that way. It just don't. These niggas be miserable, really. They like, I haven't had to hear too many child support conversations, so I feel privileged. But if they want to go tit for tat with the women that are saying they're in love with, and this is what happens, those women can go tit for tat with them in ways that now these men are 45 years old, 47 years old, and they still crying about this shit. They kids are grown and they never reconciled the relationship. They still think that they can talk about the women in the regards of, oh, that was just the baby mama, although that was a part of their struggle years. And they still don't think that it was their failures. They still think that it's all right for them to say, no, I'm going to call a hoe, a bitch, a bitch. And if she don't like it, that's on her. While society is saying, yeah, and we got a place for y'all. American society at that. Justice was at the very bottom of my list because that's a pipe dream. We live in a reality where, yeah, there are men who think that they have the privilege over women's values. When I married my wife, I thought that meant she assumed my values. She was on my page, on my program. But lo and behold, even though she married me, she retained her humanness. She retained values that and aspirations that were important to her. She still didn't want to resolve conflict with violence. She'd rather avoid violent conflict and not live on the street that is the most violent. She wants to do shit that I'm like, she want to do the opposite of me. And we've been together damn near 18, 19 years now. This shit just work. It's working for us somehow. But every once in a while, she does say she has an epiphany. So let's get to the next one. I'm thinking if she just leave me alone, I'll solve this problem myself. She's saying, no, we're in this together. I'm saying, nah, you can't help me because what you're doing is adding to the problem. And she's saying, no, you're the way that you're thinking about this value, providing for family, you're starting to limit it again. And our family has always been bigger than just the both of us. And when she makes that point clear, it's like, oh, yeah, she is right about that. And so, again, my wife is not my enemy, but she woke me up with, I'm like, it's my birthday. I'm supposed to be having good conversations. She like, no, I had an epiphany. This is going to help. And she put me through a trauma counseling session. So I thought I'd make it available to the rest of y'all. Strategy. Now, she's not in psychology and all that. She's just in education. And she believes that there's technology that can empower education. That's her dissertation. And so she lives her life to doing a whole lot of things, helping people using technology. Strategy, a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. She likes to say, I think I'm too, or I like to be strategic, chess playing and all of that stuff. I'm overthinking and overanalyzing such. I didn't add this one as one for me, but I did add it as one that was on there because a lot of the times it's like, oh, you want to be strategic, you want consistency, you want loyalty. These are the traditional values that she's putting on me. And I'm like, well, I didn't see those. She's like, no, but you are more strategic. You think very analytically about things. She's giving me compliments that I don't know how to accept. She's saying things and using words, and I'm dismissing the words. You know how when we be debating, and we're like, that's a semantic argument, that, or you're just being, you're changing the definition of the word. I was dismissing it when she was showing love and giving real compliments, saying no. And it was really because I was distrusting of her, where you have a society of young men who are advocating that you need a non-disclosure agreement just to go to their house. And then the very next day after the Cassidy and P. Diddy thing, you have the president signing legislation that says if it's sexual harassment, there is no non-disclosure agreement that the courts are going to respect. So the American justice system at one point with executive order has to now acknowledge that that non-disclosure agreement is no longer binding in the court of law, because these men will not heed the warning of the women. Give them love. Don't give them your curses. Go take your curses and your vitriol back out on them bitch ass niggas out there that you really should have a problem with, not the women in your life. You should be protecting and coddling of the women in your life. They shouldn't have to see you coming unhinged, cussing at other women, because that would then take you out of your position to protect and defend them. Why do they have to go without real good men who are able to defend them from men? Because men want to fight women now. Intellectually, emotionally, psychologically. They're willing to stand in the paint and bitch it up with a whole gay woman for hours. The gay woman was invited to the barbecue by the auntie or the cousin, and we accept the auntie was always that. But now that they at the barbecue playing spades, talking shit, there are the grown men that are in you got it, man. I started it this way a couple days ago. Louisiana. There are the traditional men that were not letting women on the domino table, and then there were those tables that did allow women to go to that domino table, knowing good and goddamn well how those men treat each other on the domino table. It's not a game. They were willing to take each other's lives over spades, card games. Stop playing games with those wayward, deviant or dysfunctional niggas, whatever words you want to put in, degenerate. If they will kill you over a card game, ain't no real reason to talk to him about credit scores. You are nigga, no credit scores. That nigga don't want no motherfucking job. He will kill you over a card game. And there are spaces where they allowed women to join their table. Oh, if that bitch want to sit down at the table, then that bitch can sit down. She know what happens at these tables, to the point where some women were like, nah, they think that they can whoop the shit out of a man, not just in the game. They want it to be First Amendment. If we keep it what we're talking about and you don't put your hands on us, then you're just talking. Knowing good and goddamn well they just sat down at a table with a nigga that's finna cuss they ass out. And so, yes, there are those cousins, females, aunties, cousins, who can cuss with the worst of them. They can cuss to provoke you to violence, and you're a man. And there are men who are just weak enough. We would think that the masculine trait is just to walk away. No, they are about that life, or stupid enough. If it's not a function of weakness or intelligence, competence, maybe it's a function of just they are really what they said they were. They were that. Degenerate. They're willing to go upside a woman's head, not just cuss at them. They're willing, if the woman is willing to engage in an altercation, physical violence with them, they would go physical violence with the woman. Now, again, I got aunties and cousins who've been itching. They got that shit in them. They play spades and dominoes. Bitch, please. Moses, the baby, fighting a woman, they be like, nah, Moses, that ain't your space. I got this. They volunteer, nigga, wear plane ticket. $1,700, nigga, that was this month on snacks and shit for everybody else kids. Wifey will spend $1,700 on everybody else kids snacks. Plane ticket, nigga, what the problem is? Just show up. Major flex on strategy, though. While I may have been comfortable subjecting my wife to a life where she lives on one of the worst streets in Del Paso Heights, the most dangerous, the one when the news comes and they're like on the corner of Grandin, that one. While I'm comfortable taking my wife and my children into those circumstances where harm's way are, not just on an occasional house party with the backyard boogie oogie oogie, the music going, the dominoes table going, the spirits are high, a little smoky smoke in the air because it's California. Not just when it's like that and the homies is in the backyard and the families come together. No, the worst street where they banging and slanging at. That's where I thought would have been a good place to live. Wifey had to say, nah, that's not what we're going to normalize. Just like she doesn't like all the cussing and shit, she could do without all that cussing when we communicate. Some people just say communication is important to me. It's a top value. They be willing to take all that shit. My wife be like, God damn, every once in a while, she'd be like, yeah, I really don't want to hear all of that. Because I'm political too. Like I actually do study like politics and follow what's going on. Like right now, every once in a while, like I follow like when not just like I listen to like an ABL when he's talking or the Jesse Lee Petersons but yeah, when the political shit start happening, I be on like certain bills and shit. Who's pushing which legislation where? You running for governor? Or you running for mayor? Now you want to be what in Texas? Let me look that up. What you doing, Miss Sheila Lee? How you doing? The fighting congresswoman. There are some women who are willing to fight those battles that men aren't. And just because I thought that I wanted to live in that environment where there are men fighting those battles, they are not going to work. Their battle is not unemployment. They don't give a fuck about employment. They're on the block because they don't give a fuck about employment. Your political ass saying, well, they have job availabilities open at means absolutely nothing to them. 401k, how do you save money? What are your how are you saving money? What are your financing vehicles or your financial vehicles that you are most, useful with? Which ones are you finding the most utility out of? Ain't nobody talking to them niggas about banking. Oh, but in the hood, it's all right to talk about the lives lost. Strategy, grassroots campaign. We can keep looking at it from our individual family's lens, what I do selfishly and how I care for my family. Or we can start seeing the broader picture, which is bigger. What is the mission? What is the vision? What is the overall dream? Justice is a function. It has executive things, that it's deadlines. Here's my mind map. People say they want consistency in their leaders. I want leaders that's consistent. Be loyal. Know what cause that you're fighting for. If you're fighting for it, fight for it. Are there any of the functional things that you can do to actually back what it is that you say you value? I value my wife. I value my life and my position with my wife. It's like, yeah, if you want to go yell at somebody, go yell at them niggas at the VA. Go yell at them. But it's not normal to make your home a place that is that fucking loud of each other yelling at each other. It ought to be a safe space to say what you want to say. And if you don't value what the person is saying, listen harder, because they might be saying something that they actually value. Rather than being dismissive of what they value and saying that's a subordinate, or that's underneath that, or that's just like saying this, the way she said it was enough. There was nothing for me to push back against. And therefore, it should have been easier to accept. The only reason I was rejecting it outright is because I was rejecting the part of me. Somebody says, yeah, it could be that time. Like, she's been with me this long. She should know. If there is anybody who can observe the nuances, me walking in to talk to somebody is the after it. She's lived with it and seen me acting an ass in the home and outside of the home. So when she says, yeah, I had an epiphany, maybe at this point, our values are not aligning. Maybe what's being expressed as my value in family care is different than what you want to do in leadership. My leadership style would have been stifling for a woman who values independence and decision making. If I rest on the principle of right because I'm the man, I'm the husband, I'm the father, it's because I said so, I'll yell because I want to yell, then it would have made her no different than if she says, well, as a woman, I have my own needs and I'm going to go get those needs met as a woman because I can. It would not have been helpful for us to keep going along those paths where she's going to keep doing what she wants to do to get her needs met, and I'm going to go outside the family. Not that she's ever done anything like that. That's not what our issue is. Hers is just how she spends her money. For real, for real. You spending $1,800, we know we got investment vehicles. You could have put that shit right on in and see a return on it, but you spent it and it's gone and it's 1,800. She's like, yeah, well, I made this money, it's mine. And so again, mapping out, well, what do you value? I did the heavy lifting. Click and move. Click and move. I think what's more central to what I'm thinking about is more about excellence. Nah, I'm not really on excellence. Personal growth. I think I'm more about personal growth than empathy. Then yeah, click and move. But there were 70 of them on there. In my mind map, I'll give you mines again. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Empathy was the top, ethics, then integrity and justice. These are the core or values that were important to me, B1 Brother Moses. Hopefully that helps those who've been rocking with me for the longest understand a little bit more about me when it comes to values. What are your values? What do you value? Could you answer that question if somebody asked? The corner values, leadership. If you try to make me your leader, we're going to have a problem. Consistency, while I value that, that is still a culmination of so many moving parts. It's functioning, it's executed. Loyalty, that's going to mean something to somebody different. Loyalty when it comes to family can be expressed on my wife. Are you being loyal with I'm not committing infidelity? She's like, I'm 100% loyal to you. I have never committed infidelity. I mean, so let those in their relationships describe them as they are. And then dreams. Do you put a lot of stake and value into what you're able to create with your own mind? Or do you find yourself being diminished as a creative where you dream too big? You like movies, you like all of those other creative arts. And so people tell you, well, you need to get real. That's not life. If you value dreaming, that's a beautiful thing. When I put mine together, I see that empathy and loyalty, those were the purple. So bringing those a little bit closer together. The red for ethics. It's more like individual or personal ethics or personal integrity for me. So it was more green, but ethics and justice were a function. Justice went blue because that's more of a pipe dream for me, something I don't really believe in, but that I really want. And then ethics, yeah, justice would be the ideal state. What would justice be? And then ethics, do you do the right thing for the right reasons, the right people, the right time, things like that? Do you do that with consistency, and how do you measure that? I think we down to the last three. All right, yep, because there was this one, which, yeah, this is more or less the appendix. When we look at all of them, once again, being able to say, well, these are a lot of values. I never would have considered this one for myself. What does that mean to me? Do you actually believe in gender equality? I don't know what that would mean because I was against my wife when she wanted to get her home where she wanted to get it. That doesn't seem like it was equal. Me being against it was, I was like, if the white man can say, oh, we have redlining. The Asians can say, well, we are property owners and we don't want them in the homes that we have refurbished, their assets. They can discriminate on who they want in the shit. But why was I discriminating against my own wife owning a home where she wanted to own a home? That's something that was deeply inside of me where, yeah, if the nigga didn't know that that was him, that's on him. For some, it's just traditional. No, my wife going inside of other contracts. Now she owe people and she this, she that. My wife ain't never. If it's anybody that's going to go into debt, it's going to be me. I tried to hold on to those shits and not realizing how stifling that shit would have been. She was coming full speed and she was not going to accept being in a position of subordination to a husband merely for the fact that, well, I'm a husband and you know, grandmama had to do this and grandmama had to do that. She accepted that, yes, she can prepare meals, a group meal for me, my whole family, and anybody else I bring to the house. That doesn't mean that she will, and that doesn't mean that she's serving their plates just because they are a man and they are a guest in our house. If she prepares a meal and decides that she wants to serve it, that's her to serve the plates. But once the food is on the island, when she says come eat, that's what she meant. um, there's so many other ways and caveats that it becomes practical. But first and foremost, just being able to identify what are core values, not being scared of having positive traits about yourself, and being able to receive those positive things when people are giving good compliments, when people are identifying positive things that you may or may not see in you. They may use words that could have been said in other ways. They value your teamwork, they value your advice or your guidance, they value your optimism, they value your innovation or your courage, they value your intelligence, they value your willpower, your self-determination. I don't want it to be where I'm saying strong and we start to try to typecast that being a woman who's willing to normalize the acceptance of poor treatment from men. She's strong because men can talk to her anyway. They can cuss at her and she doesn't even pay it. No, never mind. No, women still have every right to get bent out of shape and cry when they feel insulted, and all of the shit that men do when men don't want to put their hands on a woman, so they do the little slick shit with their mouth. Just like men can be insulted when women cut back at men, and there are women who've learned to play the game very very well. They can cut the shit out of men, and it is still the expectation, if you believe it, tradition or not, that the man is the one to have the willpower, the restraint. He's not to come unhinged if a woman does that to you. She doesn't allow you to lose your own life or to risk your own life over the negative things that she's saying or the behaviors that you disagree with about her. The man is still expected to hold his decorum. Um, let me see. Core values. Assumption one was the association bias. There are some images in the words, the combos that may influence the selection of core values that one identifies as important. So just seeing the image may help some people say, yes, this one, or just seeing the word, oh, but if I asked you what are 10 values that you believe are important, um, they may just be able to say those ones. They may disagree though if they look at the image, like how they had career and it was the steps and it was the flag and it had what appeared to be like a male icon. They may disagree because they don't think that career is best exemplified with an icon of a man climbing up some ladder as the end game. They see career as something different. So they may have been just looking at that icon, they may have agreed with career, but not with the symbolism on it, right? So core values association, that the people who created those icons, they associated knowledge with the owl. They associated in that way. So description, if a person is presented with a set of value icons and value word combinations working in tangent to identify their values, the selection process will be influenced by the icons and the words themselves. The influence of the combinations is present in how fast or slow the respondent processes the selection, i.e., if I show you all of the values and then say, which of these values do you believe most strongly represent where you're at in your life right now and what you believe to be true and most important as your defining characteristics, the foundation, what makes you you? Question challenge number one: do you believe that the combination of the value icon and the value word influence the timing of your selection? When I think about the challenge question, what I'm saying is, when you looked at it and you saw the icon and you saw the word, how fast did you say yes? Oh yeah, I believe that honesty with the big heart is important, and select that as a value. Versus when you look at a different one, um, integrity for me has the shield on there, like you're defending something. And yes, there's a check mark on top of the shield to say I am defending. Integrity is the defense of things. And so, of things being defined by others, or of things. I am in defense of things that I define, being the key words there. So for me, integrity was more important. It took me longer to actually process integrity than it did to process heart. When I looked at heart, because of, I guess, how my mind was mapping it, I was like, I disagree. Like, it, to me, it read love over honesty. When I read, if you love somebody, you will tell them the truth, I was like, no, I bite my tongue a lot dealing with these people. I bite my tongue a lot, a lot. I got older brothers who will never take ownership for the way that they treated women at any point in their life. They never would complain to me about their child support, but they do hold a resentment towards women and women in general, and an underlying gird of fear. If you give them a podcast and say, what do you think is important to talk about? Well, I say men getting to reflect, men reflecting on where you have missed and where you could do better, and finding ways to do better. What is success? Defining success under your terms and then pushing towards it. If I say, what would be the message of your podcast? What should people take away from it? They would still be in line with a lot of the manosphere rhetoric, and it's not to their advantage. It would only make social media more and more unhinged and unpalatable, where you see people who like that's what y'all like, this is what you're actually entertained by, when you see what the numbers look like. And it's like, okay, well, that's the way it is. The negative will be catered to and the positive will continue to fall under the light. But for me, a core values conversation, I had to address a couple of biases as well. The association bias for myself was, if I associate something as good and functional and, oh, I can do that, it's tangible, then I gave more value to that value. And I was wrong, because I was dismissing those values that I didn't think were concrete. If it was more abstract, I was like, don't assign that to me. Don't tell me I'm a fucking dreamer. I'm trying to make shit shake. What do you mean? I can show you what I've been doing. And so for that, never mind. It was like, wifey would talk to me and she said, well, you are having conversations about money. Money is something that you value. For me, I'm able to do something with that money, and that's what I value. And it was easier just to dismiss it like, yeah, well, if you didn't have to earn that fucking money, then it would be a value for you. I was using all the normal ways that a breadwinner can approach the topic, when the breadwinner isn't trying to hear that shit. Is it helpful to close off, or would it be more helpful if I could actually hear the things that I was saying? And so I'm not going to yell, or to stop yelling at her. Stop. Why do I feel like it was important to cuss at wifey? Things like that, or cuss with her, or to talk to her in ways that I wouldn't talk to coworkers, like, oh, well, at the job, they could fire you if you use that language. So you're just going to reserve that for your wife then, huh? And she just has to take it. Shit like that. All right. And then the second and final assumption that I'm going to talk about, it looks like I've been live for around 37 minutes. It feels like it's been a lot longer, but I'm going to finish this one on out. Core values. Assumption 2 was the scarcity bias. Limiting or prioritizing values in any way influences the timing and selection of values. Description. The number of selected values will determine which values are selected as most important, as well as intrinsic factors. A person may choose a value that seems all encompassing of many underlying values, not to diminish the value of the other. So this was like my key takeaway here. And then challenge question 2 was, either the value icon or the value word a negative influence on your decision-making process? For me, that happened a couple of times. Like I've mentioned, I looked at a couple of them and I was like, nah, this value doesn't apply to me because of the image, the icon. And I'm like, oh, this word is subjective. I need a word that's different. So yes, it was even just looking at the images was putting me in a place where I wasn't as accepting of the positive value. The value itself can just be deemed as positive. It didn't have any negative connotation until my mind mapped it out as such. And because of that, I can now say, oh wait, when I'm listening to my wife and we're having those conversations, am I intentionally trying to dismiss something that she values with my communication? And that's how I can check myself based on our values. If there was something that I feel was causing me a concern enough to scream and yell and put the cuss words in that I would not put in if I was talking on a job, then I should not put them in if I was talking to my wife. And then for that same never mind, by extension, many people aren't there. They don't, the woman treatment or the person treatment. If you're not treating the men who deserve to be treated like that, like this, and you can't find no other bitch ass nigga to go yell and scream and cuss at that deserves it, then maybe the wife who has sacrificed can hear you and listen to you yell and scream and cuss again about whatever bullshit you on. But until you've exhausted every last bitch ass nigga that deserves to be yelled at and screamed at and cussed at over whatever else, do not yell and scream and cuss at your wife. Do not normalize that. Your children shouldn't normalize yelling and screaming and cussing as man. That's not man. And if a woman is willing to yell and scream and cuss at her husband, it's still not good. But from my lens, I am man. My key learnings, yeah, the epiphany is when your values do not align, it may trigger you a certain way. That still does not mean that she's now accepting that you're just going to yell and scream and cuss. If you are a man who yells and screams and cusses at your wife, then go find yourself a hospital somewhere where you can get help. There are plenty of men that we can have conversations with till we're blue in the face who deserve to be treated like that. When you think that she deserves it, there's something wrong with you. And when you just do it because you're just doing it, because what you just do, it still means that there is something wrong with you. And if you value you, you might value the way you treat others and such. Or if you don't value it, you don't value yourself, you might just continue to think that treating women and calling them bitches and going tit for tat with a bitch who's out of line and now you're going to put her back in line. If that's your place is to go check other wayward women, go right ahead. There are plenty enough men for you to go out there and check real men if you are a real man. Or keep arguing about what bitches is doing. That shit weird. In any event, if you're not going to do that to your wife and you're going to protect her, then by you can. It's only your choice to say other women will not get my vitriol out of respect for my wife because I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize my place in my relationship with my wife over these what I would consider not worth it. If there was any battle worth fighting, go find a battle worth fighting when you feel like a woman has you ready to come unhinged and she's not even your woman. That's how you get around. Well, I'm not just gonna give everybody the wife treatment. No, they don't deserve that. I'm holding doors, and these ugly bitches won't even say thank you. Nigga, that's still not your problem. You're doing what is goodness inside of you. But when it does turn into, yeah, I'm willing to go hard on women too, nah, you're falling below the bitch nigga category. It can only get worse from there, is what I'm going to say. It's not working out in our favor when men want to actually get violent. And the more men feel like that's normal or that's their right, their principle, that they can go hard on a bitch, the harder it is going to be to send this message of anything, the equity, gender equity. I really love women. Nigga, you can't love women. You're going harder on these women. You know that they're bitch ass niggas out there that you could be going hard on, but yet you continue to find a reason to make it about a different woman that is not your wife. I mean, defend your wife. They come after you and your wife. Or even when they're not coming after you, there are still other battles that one might pick. So if a man is picking that battle, he's choosing to pick that battle. There are bitch ass niggas out there who are picking fights with women, and they're doing this shit meticulously, and they're not doing it because, well, those women are trying to get women to join the LGBT community, which is that's again getting worse. Men, there are some men who have value. We can add value through the history lessons. This one is very pro get care if you need it. Go talk to somebody, because it is the male's behaviors that we're analyzing. The men are wanting to say, oh, if the woman does this, if the woman does that, if she behaves. No, nigga, it's the male behavior. I'm still not off of that square, the male behavior. And just because we have more bitch ass niggas who are accepting the term bitch, oh, call me a bitch, I'll be that bitch. Niggas who accept being bitch in society doesn't mean that you get to now argue with women and shit. And that's what it is, nigga. Nah, then it's only getting worse. If you want to hold on to I'm doing this as a man and I have the right to chastise and discipline and all of that shit, then first things first, start disciplining those bitch ass niggas who are your actual enemy. And when I say niggas in that case, I don't even think that the black folks are the actual enemy. People have people in their family who they can have hard conversations with. They can include all the cuss words. That shit ain't normal. We normalize that shit because we think that that shit means something, but that shit don't mean shit. They have unlimited spaces, it seems like, where they can send a motherfucker who wants to keep being a deviant or a social degenerate. But if our mission and our purpose is to stand on principles, then we can't also be that same degenerate. And my wife was saying it was time for me to recognize that there is the influence. And if I find myself in those spaces where those niggas are the degenerate, they got a wife, they got everything going for them in life, but they still want to throw everything that they got going away over some degenerate other woman that's not even significant to them, then that's the type of man they might be. And until they're willing to address it, it's unrealistic expectations to even ask the wife who is accepting it to be a better wife to them, that man who's willing to throw it all away. On grounds of principles, we are men, and if we're going to be talking to men about these issues, we're asking men, what are your principles? And men are afraid to answer because it's like asking a loaded question. They don't know how to answer that question. What are their values? What principles do they stand on? And when we start listening a little bit better to when the women who are able to tell you what they value, when we can listen without rejection or dismissing, then we can start moving towards going in the right direction versus it getting worse and worse, it being the relationships that we value. Now, again, if they're not gay, they don't worry about the intimate relationship that they have with that woman. They can keep cussing at her, calling her and treating her whatever it is that they want to do. They're gay. Their relationship is more intimate relationships amongst men. But I'm trying to get to my big 20. And when wife says, hey, this is something that, an epiphany is what it is. It took me longer because the heart and loving somebody as honesty, I felt like if you love somebody, yes, you can tell them the truth, but there are also some truths that you better save yourself. Save yourself. You can try to keep telling people about their selves because that's what you think is true. Oh, I got to tell her about themselves. I got to tell her about herself now. She done did X, Y, and Z. But in that case, no, that was daggers to the heart of that woman to try to tell her that independence was not something I was going to be accepting of and all of that shit. But again, like, so she goes into the relationship now. We're still in our struggle stages. The bills can add up, and she says, I want a house and I don't want to live in the neighborhood. So it's not going to, like, you can get a smud home and they can help you if you have very low income and shit. But if your wife does not want to settle for that, then making her do that is forcing her into a lifetime of perpetual poverty. It's not fair. Some would say that that's economically abusive. She gets to be like 35, 36, 37 years old, and she still got a fucking 17-year-old or 18-year-old credit score, then that was on the man. And they want to keep saying, well, the man is absolved in that. The woman knew what she was doing when she stayed with him. Like, Like they could be in relationships. If she went into the relationship with a value to be in a relationship, with a value for guidance or to be guided by the man, and she went into a relationship with a trusting that what the man says is right and he's exact, and if she does it, success and happiness. If she doesn't do it, failure and misery, shame and outcast, social rejection. If she was the one who did value those lovey-dovey, sensitive, connecting values, how can you tell her that she was wrong for staying and trying to do it? Especially if she was locked out of the information about credit. She just has fucked up no credit, and now it's time for her to grow off an adult. Can you open a business? Does the business system trust you to manage a business? Can you get a business loan? Would you get a personal loan? Any of those things that she might need to sustain her ambition as a human in America, she's now locked out of because she trusted him. Now, in my relationship with wifey, I would have had to have been that dog of a guy and saying, I didn't though. I had to yield. They like, nigga, that makes you a beta. Nigga, you are a softer nigga. You let your wife do whatever she wanted to do. Nigga, say what you want, nigga. Look at my credit score, look at her credit score, and then look at y'all's. Nigga, there's a difference. She got her doctorate. Nigga, we needed a doctor in our family. Well, it could have been good to have a medical doctor and then making, my wife be making $250,000. You're not going to diminish the value of her passing and successfully completing the terms of her dissertation and defending that shit. The same way I would say defense of integrity, being integrous, doing what you say and saying what you're going to do and all of that and so forth. She did what she said she wanted to do. What was important to her was not having to live under her grandmother's roof. Her grandmother had homes. She wants to emulate that at some point, but she said she wanted her home and she didn't want it to be on the hot block in the neighborhood, and thus it could not be there. She wanted her education or she wanted her degree in her special field, and whether that meant working or getting scholarships or taking out loans, she was not going to stop. So if that makes me beta, then all right, beta. But it wasn't for me then to then say, woman, you are not going to get this education unless we can pay for it, and I'm not going to pay for it. That shit would be absolutely horrendous of treatment to a human being that you're with. You're telling me you're in a relationship with a man who doesn't want you to have a home, or he's staying out of home ownership for whatever reason, and you're staying with him. He yells, he screams, he cusses, he smokes, he might drink you under all of that other extra shit that we know lead towards degenerate behavior, if not considered degenerate or outside of the norm. You don't have to drink or smoke, but you choose to do so. So she's accepting that. And the dude that doesn't want home ownership, assets, yeah, that was very, very much struggle love. She had to sacrifice. And me saying, what have you sacrificed in our relationship, was probably one of the most ignorant comments I had made. She sure woke me up and got over on me, because when she said we should talk about our values, what are our values? And she did that mirror talk. And you see how much work I put into this presentation. This is the last slide. She definitely found an effective way to get through to me on identifying what are your values, and then being able to say, yes, Zania, you are not wrong for how you spend your money in our relationship. As the wife, no, you do not need me to be 100% on board with how you spend your money. I'm not appropriating you on an allowance or anything like that. I'm not allowing you to be successful in the world. I'm not allowing you to have a career. I'm not allowing any of those extra things. You are a human being and a woman. And that was disrespectful of me to say, and to superimpose traditional values on a woman who wanted to be independent. I was trying to take her back to some Madam C.J. Walker, before Madam C.J. Walker, with the beauty supplies and perm, or here's how you do your hair, pomper style and pompadora, and put your hair up, and how to be a high fashion, church type woman. They walk in with all the elegance and grace every day in society, and the woman's hair and the woman's nails, and how much you pay to have all of those things done. You're just grooming and putting extra stuff on. I love you already. You're paying $1,800 for what? No, none of that shit was even necessary if we first understood that we were standing on the same values and principles in the first place. See, Del Paso Heights, it was conflicted because niggas was going to the NFL. Yeah, they were. I wasn't, but it gave me a sense of pride. And that very sense of pride, like, oh, my neighborhood is the shit, nigga. We got niggas going to the NFL, was what would have allowed my children to have to struggle with, oh, we got shot at. How do I process this with my parents? And then having those type of parents that are just accept that shit. Like, oh, if I have to come visit you in the hospital, that's just that. Like, no, nigga, we every siren in the middle of the night, y'all just normalize that that could be your family and your friends, and now you're just not even afraid no more. You're not afraid for any of your loved ones. You don't have that paralyzing ice cold from the back of my neck, hairs standing up to the soles of my feet, freezing cold. I like messing with Madam CJ Walker just for the Madam part, and then the C because of her Harlem connections, and because it's one of the most obvious. People say the Madam C.J. Walker experience of what that did to the woman's psyche. I am beautiful. What the fuck do you mean I am not beautiful? This is what and being able to invest that much into what would have considered vanity for any case. I thought it would have been good vanity, but today there's still conundrums between if a woman is physically desirable versus if her behaviors or mannerisms can make her less physically attractive. And I'm like, yeah, everything starts getting skewed again. Are you talking about what are the physical traits, like her nose phenotypically, the size of her forehead or eyebrows? If that is what I find attraction in, because then, like, if she smokes and all of those other things, they would seem to be different, or if she cusses and things, they would be different. But no, as a series of control mechanisms, they put it beyond just a beauty standard. What does a woman do to take care of herself in the bathroom, and how does she carry herself professionally towards career or in public? They make beauty so much more when it comes to what women are experiencing. When I say they, I've been married for so long, I just feel like when I start listening to the dating conversations, I am so out of it. They be like, what are you looking for? And what does the first date entail? I thought the first date was intended to be the I'm trying to impress you. And I'm almost considering asking if we should make this shit official between us, which is why I'm like, well, it depends on what this date finna be. We gonna see how this works out. But it took courage to say, let's go on a date. Now it's like serial dating is the expectation that it's not serious, that a date is not serious. If you're going out for something, it's not to understand what their intentions are for you, that you're not making a commitment of time and energy, or that you're not investing in somebody who could otherwise be a toxic for you, a toxin to your dreams. They could be the negative to what you want to accomplish. You have a franchise of fucking beauty parlors, and instead now you lose all the assets, all the years that you were your business credit. You should be able to walk into any bank right now with a $25 million uh with your receipts, but you can't because you love that nigga and that nigga didn't want it. You have a franchise of beauty parlors with your fucking name on it at airports, but you don't know who it is that you're passing up every day. Like, make 2 phone calls in the airport concessions. You can get a massage, or you can start getting your edges touched up before you leave the airport. But no, that brand or that franchise doesn't get to have its dream realized because the man came in with his values, and his values were this, and his values were in a sense at odds with her ownership. The better she got in executing what she felt were her values, which could be beauty, a salon space, just having the brand on it, the logo, the signature, having the brand and signature on the bottles or on the however it was, or how the shop is actually run, not just the income streams from a salon, or not just the responsibility of a barber shop. She could actually be an owner. But yes, there are women who sacrifice that very essence of themselves, their ownership status, their personhood, They say the values that they would have valued, like independence, their ability to make their own decisions, their honesty, their, those things, they're willing to compromise and negotiate on their value set to try to conform to the household being head by a man. And they're scared to death of that shit. That if they compromise their values, they would have compromised them for a man who is more toxic to their aspirations. How would she not live with resentment after closing 6 or 7 different shops? Like, yeah, you could have been somebody working in a shop. Like, yeah, you work in a shop. That's different than being the salon owner. And then also different than allowing, with trust-based relationships, a franchise, other people to then say, well, how do I keep these shops open on your behalf? And then how do I just pay you for the right to be a part of this organization? They would come flat out and say, oh, no, you don't need to work for nobody. And I think that this is, if you're at the shop 75% of the time, or it's taking 80% of the time, I want you home with me. So the woman sacrifices that time, that money, that future, that independence in order to stay home and be in a relationship with that man, to placate to what his desire for her is. That shit gets dangerous, and it only gets more dangerous like today, when those women are now doing that and saying, okay, not for the sake of a man to protect me, they're moving into the gay space of the LGBTQ community, assuming that the safety is now in LGBTQ, since they were unsuccessful finding safety in the arms of a man. And so, I mean, with everything that's going on, that's enough right there. It's been my hour. Thank y'all for rocking with B1 Brother Moses. That's all I got. We talking about so much. No Cabrini Green Thursdays this Thursday. But getting help, mental health, psycho-emotional care is important. Women can do self-care. They can go to the salon and do all of that. A lot of men are opting not even to go to the barber shop, it seems now. But if there is a space where men can feel comfortable having their conversations, it might need to go back to the hoop court. Wherever it is, I hope they find one and stop taking it out on the women that are in the community, and definitely don't take it out on your wife. It is unnecessary to cuss and scream and to do all of that. When the man does it, that's his choice. And if he does it too much, he is only asking for conflict. To be woke up in the middle of the morning. I mean, I'm talking, it's got to be like 6:30, like good 6:30, and say, well, I had an epiphany. Let's talk about our core values. It's Saturday, so not a weekday. It's Saturday, the day of my birthday. Wake up in the morning and she say, well, I had an epiphany. Let's talk. And so this is what I got. I'll visit this stream in about 5 years, see where we're at, see if any of my values have changed. If you would like access to the PDF to look at some of those yourself, then you can just request those. Y'all know how to contact me. I'm B1 Brother Moses. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you are so kind to share my content and help me grow my space, I think I need like 10,000 more hours watched, and I might be able to monetize. And what that means is every once in a while, Taz exclusives and Nyla says, people that we actually do rock with, and so many others, their spaces get taken down. And so having a backup page is good. I've never even gotten to the point of having that first one up, and they've taken the time out to say, hey, like, go rock with B1 Brother Moses a couple of times before. That helped me reach certain metrics. So hitting those metrics allows for them to say, Moses, do you want to be a part of our program where we'll send you AdSense based on, if people watch and all of those things. I didn't care one way or the other. I wasn't asking for money from people, but I am somebody who is very generous and I give to others. Helping me help other people will only help. Oh, shit. I didn't know you didn't have one. Hold on. Monday morning. All right, it's muted. Got it. Yes, sir. I didn't even know. Let me see. Get this nigga. It's yeah, my guy. Let me give you the wrench store. You can block people and shit too. I didn't even know because I wasn't looking at it from the YouTube one. But yeah, but as it grows, if it's monetized, people talk about that shit like as if it's something. I think that the message matters. We're standing on the principles that as men, Even if they don't want to become a husband to that woman, they they owe it to themselves and to whoever it is that they're interacting to learn what it is to be respectful and walk with that sense of dignity. They don't have to be a doormat. My wife is not one who's so dominant that she wants to make me a doormat. She just wants to be able to spend her own fucking money as she sees fit. And every once in a while, I turn into a light skinned nigga about it because I have a woman who makes thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And when you start adding those thousands and thousands and thousands up, I'd be like, man, I'm the husband. I get to tell you that that's some bullshit. You trying to buy 1,700 worth of nowalators and snacks, and like ain't nobody even like Halloween, $200 worth of candy. Do you need $200 worth of candy? Where do you think we live? Like things like that. So I be getting real light skinned about what she wants to do with her money. Well, at the same time, she never really tells me, Moses, I need you to stop spending money on, your I don't do libations no more, but when it used to be libations, she wasn't like that. She wasn't the woman like, nah, you out there with the homies and homeboys and you need to bring your ass home and you spending too much money doing, weed or whatever, shit like that. She wasn't like that. So for me to turn into a whole bitch ass nigga about how she spent her little $1,800, $1,700, and that's on the low end still. But yeah, she blow a bag, on a bag on a bag every time. It is another day. She going back to motherfucking Wally World, and she go to Walmart too. Like you can go to Fry's and get good food and shit like that, or their deli section when it's fresh. You see them working back there and all that. But she can go to Walmart, come out that mug with a $300, $395 receipt, and I'm looking at that mug like, damn, ain't none of this for me. Nothing. And that's like she'll go to Walmart like 2-3 times a day, so it'd be nothing to go up. And in relationships, it's infidelity that some people say, or the security in a relationship. Do you feel sexually or intimately secure in your relationship with the person that you're with? My wife can sit here and I would believe her if she told you that she is 100% secure. She ain't even kissed another man on the mouth since she said I do to me. Does that mean that she is? I don't know. There may have been times where in her mind or in her heart, she imagined or remembered an ex-boyfriend. To me, nigga, what you remembering ex-boyfriends for? I'm like, I get to tripping off dumbass shit. You remember an ex-boy? Oh, you thought about that nigga. Like her mind, she have a thought. Like, don't even think about an ex. I'll wake up in the middle of the night ready to argue, picking a fight on dumb shit. And I lost this battle. Do not tell your woman that she hasn't made any sacrifices, because either she gonna tell you yes I have, or she'll find a way to show you. And once you see it for yourself, it'd be like, damn. So all right, it's the holidays. Holidays end up sending some people into different perspectives. I know for me, the holidays sends me into an emotional space because I'm the baby boy and I got the right. Some of my older brothers, like I got two older brothers, but I got so many older brothers because as I've stated, my dad was one to where if you were in the neighborhood and you needed a house, or I mean a meal, excuse me, that was from the mom side. If he was not going to tell you you had nowhere to go. You could sleep on the couch. And so I got a whole lot of brothers that was way more gangster than me. So when I got to cry to grandmama, sometimes that shit was for good reason. What would you do though if you are the person in the community and now you got to decide what has to happen? You got these dudes that are over their 20s and they're free to come and go inside of the spaces where your children are, and your son is now getting a little bit mouthy. Are you going to allow the neighbors of the neighborhood to put their hands on your son in order to teach your son that hard lesson about life and what it means to be gangster, what it means to be a hustler? You're going to let the police come and put the hands on your son? You're going to let the uncle who accidentally burnt me with that cigarette horsing and shit, he be horsing, and he's one of them uncles that play too much? Or are you going to be a hover parent that tries to isolate your children from all of that by moving to the suburbs? Every once in a while, you don't get to avoid that because the holidays brings people together. And my wife last year, she took it over and she did the whole bringing everybody together here. This year we have our conversations about it, and it's going pretty good. But she hit me with that, oh yeah, I had an epiphany. We need to talk. Let's talk about our values. Hey man, let's talk about our values. And then she's sitting there all silent, listening for me to answer the question, like, no, what are your values right now? Because basically, making me walk myself into this. Well, if this is your value, do you believe that this is the way that you are acting and representing? First, do you believe that this is your value? Second, do you believe that this is a good value, like good for you? Do you believe that this is a value that your children should embody? All right. Now, how much time and money do you invest into said value? If you're able to invest more into what you do value, then that would be good. But if you don't value the LGBTQ community, then you stop investing in them. If you don't value the women who are going after you and your wife, then you stop investing in them. If you do not value that, they stop getting the good energy. You stop neglecting the good side and you start putting in the time and the investment where you value. Men compromise all the time. I don't really value that shit, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it needs to be done. But at some point, even the men need to learn what they value. Hopefully this helps. I put a whole lot of myself out there today with this one. Obviously I'm not doing good. Like if I was finna go to like Cancun, that would have been a way better social media post or social media conversation. But yeah, it's still something that a lot of us are still getting to know. Like I might be too authentic a person in my understanding for social media, because weird is weird to me. We didn't cater to the LGBTQ community. They don't get hours and hours and hours worth of our energy. Them niggas was weird. They want to do weird shit. That's on them. But then society said, okay, well, hold on, nigga. If you do or if you don't, they are still going to have their way. So what are you going to do? And I'm choosing to stand on principle as a married man. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I don't rock with the other side of that argument. If you do, no disrespect towards you. You might have different values. My wife then showed me a better way that I can identify what her values are and a better way that I can identify what my values are. And if this was interesting to you, then hopefully I deserve that like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe already. Check out the next one when it drops. It'll probably drop. I like doing more on other, like if I can, I'll do another topic about this this Robinhood shit, because Robinhood has been moving today. I know Bitcoin went over $37,000 for one coin. It's at 37.5. It was at 28. It went down to 18. It was at 22. So people had all the time and opportunity to say if Bitcoin was for them or not. If they would have bought the one coin, they would have had it. And today it's at 37.5. It's a very volatile thing. It goes up and down by like thousands, hundreds or thousands of dollars. But it is an investment vehicle type, I guess people would say. People are buying this and they say it has stored value in dollars. I'm not team Bitcoin. There were some other stocks that I like to talk about, Walmart being one of them. These folks announced their earnings. It was like 1 cent more than what they thought they were going to earn. And then it started trading at less. Like people started selling it. So yeah, there are experts who know about stocks and bonds and shit. It wasn't my area of expertise. So I didn't go into it too much looking at the stocks and bonds as a how do you save money. It's very risky. Like it's not nearly as risky as moving onto the street where the drug dealers and the gangsters are, and even the police don't really fuck with them niggas. But yeah, I thought it would be a better idea than just saying, hey, we need to start thinking about strategies for intergenerational wealth. Everybody ain't jumping into no real estate game, fixing up houses and carpentry and masonry and all of that other shit. Just like everybody isn't opening up their own salons and things. They may have the talent, the experience, they know how to do what a salon needs, but that doesn't mean that they see themselves as that type of leader. And then likewise, there are so many other topics that are outside the LGBTQ. It was only because they make that shit like when I heard the person who insulted my wife and thus to insult me, but then saying that about my wife, when they did that shit, that's what keeps them a little bit relevant, is when the LGBT community starts saying, yeah, well, some of y'all look like us. And I'd be like, what? Whoa, hold on. like when they try to put that on black women, oh, is she or is she? And there's a lot of bitch ass niggas that be doing that shit. And there's a lot of women who also do that shit as well. They be like, oh, he's a little punk, he's a little this or whatever. And they try to say that. That's one that my auntie has at the domino table and the cards. Like, what is this traumatic experience with women? Women who call men punk. They know when they say that shit that it's a cut, and they are damn near spitting on a human being when they say you're a punk. And they do that shit intentionally, just like men when they used to be able to get to evoke another man, call another man a bitch. You are asking for that vitriol. And so we're getting there to where there are women who will call a man a pussy and all of those other things, and it's still beholden on the man to not come unhinged. Don't throw your whole life away over it. What we're seeing is a whole lot of bitch ass men who are dedicating more and more and more of their time to the LGBTQ, which makes the heteronormative or the I'm married. I want to be married. I want my wife to want me, and the rest of y'all relationships, I'm sorry to hear about all of that. You got single women who are throwing women to the LGBTQ for safety, it seems like, because men are the problem. Men are the problem. All right, if that's the message that y'all want to invest in, I'm saying that just would make things worse. But to each their very own. I'm B1 Brother Moses, and that's finally all that I got. I looked at my stocks. We're at 5,000, so about $3.46 above even. Nothing else more to talk about there. AMC, which I thought should be doing better, was at $12 a share. That mug came all the way back down to where I bought it at. I'm down 50 cents per share on 100 shares. If I would have sold, it wasn't enough incentive for me to sell to have $300 worth of profit. But now that I done lost 50 cents per share, $50, I'm a little bit, 50 cents per share. I'm feeling like, damn, if I would have sold them. That's my thing, though. I was like, I'd rather have them than not have them, even though they're fucking costing me money right now. So it still won't make sense. People could not come to me for mastery on stocks because this shit don't make sense. How is it that the company that's Walmart, for example, can make money, say we're going to make this amount, make more than that, and then that makes people sell the stock? Man, I wouldn't know what the hell to do with this shit. I would have thought that if you're making more money, that would have been incentive for more people to say, yes, they're good, not for people to say yes and then bail out on your ass. Again, but that's how I value loyalty, though. It's a different function and a different mechanism of loyalty. What does loyalty look like? Oh, this other one, I found it. NVIDIA was the other one. And why was it important? Damn, what are they showing me? Open price was $493, $499. Oh, the average was $455. I think I was mad at NVIDIA for a while. I think NVIDIA and what is the Elon Musk dude? Tesla. NVIDIA and Tesla were both driving me over the edge. Because it was like, well, your market value already seems to be sandbag. You seem to be able to make a lot more money and to provide more money in the business, in shares and stocks and shit. You can provide a greater dividend. You can do more than what you're doing. So it sounds like they're sandbagging. And then when I looked at what I paid for the average cost versus what they were trading at, it's becoming more and more affordable, which means that the value of the stock that I bought is becoming worth less and less. And I think that it should be doing the opposite. If a company is moving into those sectors that entire governments, energy, are looking to be in, then their evaluation should be more than the 1 trillion. It should be more. But in any event, people will say what they want, and well, these market factors are the reason why we're determining it. Some like to look at all the numbers and see what they're growing in, what they're selling. NVIDIA was good, that the little chips, or the Microsoft, or not Microsoft, I think was one of their competitors. Graphics processing units, computer graphics processors, and those types of chips and related chips. I think that we're going to just see more of that, which is why I'm like, oh man, why am I rocking these goddamn shoes so much? Anyway, I think that we're going to see more of that. I think that as more of them decide that they want to make their way into the chips, or making smart internet of technology type things, or powering things beyond just the old power grid, long story short, I think that they're worth a little bit more than where they were at too, but they're up $50 today. So that killed that argument. It was 455, but no, they're back up to 493, even though they opened at 493. So that's AMC. Oh, Tesla. Let me see where they're at or they're trading at to finish that thought too. Tesla, 275 is what I paid. They're down to like 234. So I done lost $40. That's why the portfolio itself is at like break even. There's some winners, some losers. We'll yell at them on the next one. Yeah, maybe I should put it on here on the core values since we're already sharing core values. Nah, I won't attach too much to it. I'll leave core values at core values. Now that we're done with that, I appreciate y'all for rocking, and I will get up out of here. I'm gonna check out your YouTube that you put in here. Appreciate you, Tanjon. And I'm out in the stream.